Hey guys. This is part 7 of What If Naruto Was Madara's Grandson. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 38 The Dragons Assemble. Senju Compound at dawn. Naruto and Minato were both stirring as the sun was just coming up in the horizon. These few days were like vacation after 3 long years of training. It's not like they did nothing. They still did their morning workout routine, but the rest of the days were just spent relaxing and doing anything they might want. Morning, love, Naruto said, rolling on the bed to see the face on his girlfriend. Morning, Hinata replied, half asleep. Naruto was about to reply when he heard a deep sigh in his head. Something wrong? Naruto asked Kurama when he heard the sigh. I'm bored, Kurama replied, stretching his limbs. Amuse me, human, Kurama ordered, and Naruto's eyes twitched. Why don't you chase your tails? It should be 9 times funnier, Naruto rhetorically asked with a straight face. I am not amused, Kurama replied with his eyes twitching. I know exactly what to do, Naruto said with his eyes sparkling with mischief. Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique, Naruto said, going through hand seals and slamming his hand on the bed. Once the smoke had cleared, there was a chibi version of the Kyuubi. I'm still not amused, human, Kurama said, getting ready to devour Naruto. Not that he could in that body, since Naruto summoned him with low chakra amount. Kurama was at this point nothing bigger than a cat. Kawaii, Hinata screamed and proceeded to smother the chibi Kyuubi between her breasts. You can thank me later, you bastard, Naruto thought, looking at the suffocating Kyuubi. Kurama eventually managed to slip out from her grasp. I'm going for a walk, Kurama said, and Naruto nodded. Don't show yourself in the village. They hate foxes, and even though you are small, you still have 9 tails, Naruto explained, and Kurama nodded, walking out of the room. Naruto turned around so he could rest for a little bit before he got up. Squeal. You're adorable, Hana cooed, running after the chibi Kurama. KKKIITTTTT, the seal, put me in the seal, hurry, Kurama yelled, running through the halls and away from the Hyuga. Are you not amused? Naruto yelled from his bedroom. I'll get you for this, Kurama yelled, and proceeded to run through the kitchen, picking up Kushina and Mito after the adorable plushie. How come he was never this cute when he was with us? Kushina asked with stars in her eyes. I know, right? Mito replied, and she and Kushina proceeded to try and catch the fur ball to pet it to death. I have to say that form is more appealing than his real one, Minato said, remembering what happened 17 years ago. Morning, Naruto said, coming into the kitchen half asleep. Kurama easily outmaneuvered the 3 running ladies after him and jumped into Naruto's head. Alright, he had enough, Naruto said, ending the chase. Mean. Kushina pouted, crossing her arms in front of her chest, making Minato chuckle. What are you doing today, Naruto? Minato asked, and Naruto got into a thinking pose while eating. Nothing, Naruto replied, and Minato's sweat dropped. Maybe some light training or pick up a mission, since I haven't done anything since I got back, Naruto explained, and Minato nodded. Are you not entertained? Naruto asked Kurama, who proceeded to yip in response. Squeal, here we go again, Naruto muttered under his breath as he watched Kurama ran away again. I command you to stop. I'm the Kyuubi, the strongest of all the 9 Bijou. I will not be manhandled. RORR. Kurama tried to roar, but nothing more than yipping sounds came out, making all the girls squeal and proceed to smother him again. Konoha's gate. It was a fresh new day in Konoha. Naruto, Hinata, and the rest of their family had just gotten home a couple days ago. Some poor genins were tasked with fixing what was left of the training ground they had used for their battle. Thanks to the barrier, most of the training grounds were okay, but the middle area needed some real terraforming. Man, I'm bored, Kotetsu said, tilting back on his chair, yawning and stretching his arms. Shouldn't you be a little more observant? Izumo asked, looking at his best friend's state. They still had a few hours in their shift as gate guards, but Kotetsu already seemed to be slacking off. Relax, relax, Kotetsu replied. Everything has been peaceful, so chill out a little, Kotetsu explained. We never know when something might happen, so be a little more alert. Izumo was explaining, but was cut off by his partner. We will drop to the ground with so much effort, Kotetsu countered. I'm just saying, big things have small beginnings, Izumo wisely said. Suddenly they both felt 3 presences approaching the gates. Naturally, and like responsible guards on duty, they jumped into action to identify the possible threat. There were 3 incoming people. The one on the left, he had short, tufty blue hair and dark eyes. He also had pointed, shark-like teeth. He was wearing square, black-rimmed glasses connected to ear protectors, a blue pinstriped shirt and camouflage pattern pants. Also, he wore his forehead protector on the front of his holster, which he uses to carry Hiramikari. The sword itself is wrapped in bandages, leaving only the double hilt visible. He also has shuriken holsters strapped onto each of his legs. The person to the right was a middle-aged man with blue hair, which is styled in a moused-up manner. His left eye was blue and his right eye was covered by an eye patch. He wore a talisman in each ear with the kanji. He also wore the standard striped gray suit, with a green haori that had white trimmings that stop halfway down, over them. The last person was walking in the middle of both men. She was a slender woman in her 30s. She had green eyes, an ankle-length, auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her bust, just below her chin. She was wearing a long-sleeved, dark blue dress that falls just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zip, and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wore a mesh armor that covers slightly more of her upper body than her dress. She also wears shorts in the same color as her dress and, underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wears a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left, along with high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees, dark blue polish on her fingers and toes, and is usually shown with dark blue lipstick. What are shinobi of Kirigakure here? Kotetsu thought, placing himself as an obstacle. State your business in Konoha, Kotetsu said in a stoic and commanding voice. I assure you we mean no harm, Mei said, trying to defuse the situation before it could start. My name is Terumi Mei. To my left is Chojuro, Mei said, gesturing to her left side. And to my right is Ao, Mei said, gesturing to right side, introducing Ao. We request an audience with your Godame Hokage, Senju Tsunade, Mei said with a friendly smile. If they had been on friendly terms or allied with Kiri, Kotetsu and Izumo would most likely gawk at the beauty in front of them, but not now. Why? Kotetsu simply asked. That is to be discussed in closed chambers with your Hokage, Mei stated, and Kotetsu nodded, calling an ANBU squad to escort the Kiri shinobi towards the Hokage tower. Hokage's office. Tsunade-sama, Shizen said, knocking on the door and stepping in. There are some Kirigakure shinobi who wish an audience with you, Shizen said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. I see, Tsunade replied, thinking what to do and what measures to take. How many are they? Tsunade asked. 3, Shizen replied. Only one can enter my office, the other 2 stay outside, Tsunade said, and Shizen nodded and went to inform them. Anbu, stay alert. I don't any trouble, Tsunade ordered, and sat down on her chair when she heard 4 silence acknowledges. Outside of office. Tsunade-sama will see you now, but only one of you may enter the room, Shizen explained, and Mei nodded. Ao, Chojuro, stay here, Mei said, and started walking towards the door when Ao voiced his thoughts. But Mei-sama, I'm uncomfortable leaving you alone in there, Ao explained, but Mei seemed to get the wrong words. You will never be comfortable alone, Mei thought to herself. Ao, Mei said, turning to him with a glare. Shut up or I'll kill you, Mei said, and Ao gulped, quickly nodding. Hokage's office. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice, Hokage-sama, Mei said, entering the office. I'm Terumi Mei, leader of the rebel forces in Kirigakure, Mei explained, and Tsunade nodded, motioning her to sit down. Not at all, Mei-san, Tsunade said, greeting her as well. So, what can I do for you? Tsunade asked, getting to the point of the meeting. I'm cutting through all the pleasantries. I came here to ask Konoha's help in winning the civil war, Mei said. I see, Tsunade said, tilting back in her chair and bringing her hands to her chin in thought. As you know, the current leader of Kirigakure, Yugura the Jinchuriki of the Sanbai, launched a bloodline purge in the village. Our forces are about even, but Yugura has full control over his bijou, giving their side a huge boost in strength. We can't attack in numbers because Yugura can wipe them all out. Currently we have about 4,000 shinobi in our side, while their side has about 6,000 plus Yugura, Mei stated, and Tsunade nodded. Why did you decide to come Konoha for help of all the other 3 great villages? Tsunade curiously asked. The reasons are very simple. Of all the 5 shinobi villages, Konoha and Kumo and the closest as I couldn't leave my forces for a long time without a leader. In fact, I came with 2 of our strongest shinobi since Yagura had already tried to assassinate me multiple times. Besides, Kumo was always independent and preferred isolation. Mei explained and Tsunade nodded. What's in it for us? Tsunade asked, curious to what Mei would answer. At this particular point, Kiri didn't have much to offer. Nothing. Mei honestly answered. There is nothing we can offer at this point. But we could come to an alliance once we had one. As I currently see, Konoha is without any support from any other village since the failed Suna Sound invasion 3 years ago. Mei explained. So you want me to lend some shinobi so that they can face some blood-crazed Jinchuriki where your own shinobi can't face. And the best thing I get is an alliance, and that's if we win. Tsunade said, laying everything at the table. I guess it was a waste of time coming here. Mei thought, sadly sighing. I'm game. Tsunade said, retaking her posture in her chair. I understand. Wait, what? Mei asked, confused as to what she just heard. I said I'll lend you some help to your side. Tsunade said, and got eyes widened from Mei. Not to sound ungrateful, but why? Mei asked, confused. The moment I decided to come here, even I wasn't sure if you would lend us some help. Mei explained. First, Konoha loves bloodlines and I won't stand for their destruction since one day they might be used to strengthen my village. 2. Yagura is a Jinchuriki and I know someone who would interest in meeting the Sanbai. And 3 is because I want to help. Yagura was a fool for starting the bloodline purge, he's just massacring innocent people. Tsunade explained and Mei dumbly nodded. Although she was happy she got help, even one shinobi was better than nothing. Shizen, Tsunade called out, and Shizen entered the office. Summon the Silver Dragon. Tsunade and Shizen nodded. Silver Dragon? Mei asked, curious. I created a group similar to the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. This group is called the 8 Dragons of the Leaf, and they are our elite fighting force. Most of them could give me a run for my money. Tsunade explained and Mei's jaw dropped. Tsunade was lending her S-rank shinobi. Why dragons though? Mei asked, tapping her chin. We are in the fire country and dragons breath fire. Tsunade said offhandedly and Mei's sweat dropped. Mei was hoping for something more deep than just that. Although they aren't all swordsmen like Kiri's group. Instead of an over-specialized group, they are our first response group to any threat. This group has taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu specialists, medic and poison expert, infiltration, assassination and information gathering experts and also seal masters. Tsunade explained and Mei could only nod. What's that? Mei asked when she felt the sudden chirka spike that emerged from outside the room. With Naruto minutes earlier, Erg, Naruto screamed in frustration. How the hell do you put this thing on? Naruto yelled to the heavens as he was trying to figure out how to place the damned Senju armor on. Calm down, Naruto-kun. Hinata gently said, easing his frustrations. Let me help you. Hinata said and Naruto reluctantly agreed. First you put the chest plate. Hinata said, placing the chest plate over Naruto's torso and securing it. Then you plate the shoulder and neck armor. Hinata said, strapping the shoulder and neck armor. And finally the waist and leg armor. Hinata said. Finally, Naruto said, sighing. What would I do without you? Naruto asked, pulling Hinata closer. Crash and burn. Hinata replied, leaning in and kissing him before Naruto placed the mask over his face. Naruto picked his fan and placed it behind his back and was finally all geared up. See you later, Naruto said and swirled away. Both of them never noticed that both Minato and Kushina were watching the pair. We miss so much, Kushina said, sobbing while Minato just pulled her closer. Don't worry, Kushina-chan, we are here now, Minato softly said. He doesn't need us anymore. He's all grown up and even has a beautiful girl by his side. I wanted to be there when he took his first step, when he unlocked his chakra. I wanted to be there when he got scared from the monster inside the closet. Kushina sobbed. I wanted to, but it wasn't meant to be. We did the best we could with the choices we were given, Minato sadly replied. Don't worry, Hinata said, coming towards them. While you may never have those moments, there will come others. Besides, it was his choice to bring you back, Hinata said. After all, he never had a decent closet. Hinata tried to joke and Kushina just chuckled, wiping away a few tears. He's so lucky to have found you, Kushina said, hugging Hinata while Minato left so that they could be alone. Let me tell you some stuff from when we were growing up, Hinata said, and both sat down. One time we were Hokage's office. Naruto came from his dimension just outside of the Hokage Tower. He stepped inside and made his way towards Tsunade's office. He easily arrived there, and both Ao and Chojuro were stationed there as if guarding the room. Naruto approached the door and motioned to the handle to open it until Ao placed his arm in front of Naruto, blocking his path. You can't enter the Hokage's office, Ao simply said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow behind his mask. And why is that? Naruto asked stoically. There is meeting in progress. I can't allow you to enter the room, Ao replied. I was called and you have no authority here, Kirinin, Naruto simply said, and tried to enter the room only to have Ao place a hand on his shoulder. You won't enter this room, Ao firmly said, and Chojuro gulped, grabbing the hilt of his sword. Naruto caught Chojuro's sudden movement and interpreted it as an attack. Naruto sighed and caught Ao's hand, twisting it and bringing his arm behind his back, pinning him to the ground. Chojuro tried to swing his still-sealed sword but made the mistake of looking at Naruto's eyes through the mask holes, who had the Sharingan blazing. Chojuro was frozen in place. What is going on here? Tsunade roared, opening the door. They barred me entrance into your office, Hokage-sama. I'm just cleaning up, Naruto replied while Mei went towards Chojuro, who kneeled and fell to the floor. Stand down, Silver. They are Mei's bodyguards. Come inside so you can be briefed on your next appointment, Tsunade said, and Naruto nodded, releasing Ao from his arm lock and breaking Chojuro's genjutsu. My apologies, Hokage-sama, Mei said, but Tsunade waved her off. Come inside, everyone, Tsunade said, and everyone re-entered the office, all the while Ao was looking at Naruto, trying to figure him out. He's fast, and he disabled Chojuro with a simple glance, Ao thought to himself. Inside the Hokage's office. Now that everyone has calmed down, let me explain your mission, Tsunade said towards Naruto. Mei was carefully studying the masked man in front of her. He certainly holds himself as someone very strong. Not to mention the fact that he disabled Chojuro and Ao at the same time. Mei thought to herself, looking at the silver dragon. He was wearing a black suit with silver-colored Senju-styled armor over it. On the chest plate was emblazed a dragon. He had long spiky yellow hair and was wearing a white mask with dark silver random designs over it. On his back he had a fan. What's the mission, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked respectfully, trying to hide his identity as best as he could. Your mission is as it follows, Tsunade started. Assemble the dragons and help Mei-san into winning the civil war in Kirigakure. You are under her command until the end of the war, and you will follow any orders unless it conflicts with Konoha's or your own safety. Understood? Tsunade asked. Understood, Hokage-sama, Naruto replied. Mei-san will inform you as you travel towards Kiri, Tsunade explained, and Naruto nodded, turning to Mei. When are we leaving, Mei-san? Naruto asked. As soon as possible, Mei stated, getting up from her chair. Then I shall meet with you at the gate in 2 hours, Naruto said, and swirled away. I can't thank you enough, Hokage-sama, Mei said, bowing. Not at all. Just make sure no one dies, Tsunade said, and Mei thanked her again before leaving her office and heading towards the gates where she would wait for her backup. Senju Compound Dragons. Naruto's voice echoed through the compound. Gear up, we deploy in 2 hours, Naruto said. Finally a mission, Hashirama said, rushing towards his armor. Always the hothead, Tobirama replied. You are always bickering, you two, Mito said, picking up her large red scroll and attaching it to her back. Thank God, Kushina said, sighing. I know. I was getting bored as well, Minato stated, picking his 3-pronged kunais from the armory. Let's go, Gaara said, shifting into his brown armor. Are you ready, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked, helping her get into the armor. Yes, Hinata simply replied, sealing everything in her wrist's bracelets. 2 hours later, every dragon was at the Senju compound's entrance, all in battle gear. Konoha's gates, all 3 Kiri shinobi were waiting impassively for the arrival of the dragons. The group wasn't late per se, but Mei was very anxious to meet the group that Tsunade lent them. If what Tsunade said was true and most of them were S-ranked shinobi, then her victory was mostly certain. S-ranked shinobi are extremely powerful and deadly. Their jutsus are on a completely different scale than the standard Chunin or Jounin. A single S-ranked shinobi is worth almost 100 standard Jounins and even more Chunins. This particular level of skill is very hard to come by, and that's the reason why there are so few around. Kumogakure currently has 4 S-ranked shinobi, being A, the Reikage, B, the Hachibi Jinchuriki, Yujito, the Nibi Jinchuriki and Darui the Sandame Reikage's apprentice, wielder of the Black Lightning. Iwagakure is highly secretive about their shinobi. While they are always up to demonstrating their power over the other villages, there isn't much known information about them. The only known S-rank shinobi currently attached to the village is Inoki, the Sandame Tsuchikage, wielder of the Dust Release, capable of disintegrating anything, including shinobi. The Sand Village is another mystery. Even before the invasion 3 years ago, they were still secretive, even with Konoha allied with them. Currently, they do not possess any definitive S-rank shinobi. They have Chiyo, a counselor that was renowned for their mastery in puppetry, but the old age has finally caught up to her. They also have Baki, the Godame Kazekage. While not a S-rank shinobi, he isn't that far away. Then we have Kirigakure. Their shinobi are renowned for remarkable kenjutsu and water jutsus. They possess more sensors than any other village out there. The reason as to why that is unknown. The only S-rank shinobi currently fighting in the Loyalist or the Rebel sides are Yagura, Yandame Mizukage and the Sanbai Jinchuriki, and Terumi Mei, the Rebel leader. There are a few others elite jounins like Ao and Chojuro, but they don't reach the S-rank title yet. Konoha also has their fair share of powerful shinobi. They have Senju Tsunade, Godame Hokage, her grandson Senju Naruto, Jinchuriki of Kyubi no Yoko and wielder of the Sharingan bloodline, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, Hataki Kakashi, son of White Fang, Hyuga Hinata, apprentice of Senju Tsunade, and Sarutobi Hiruzen, who despite his old age he's still very powerful. While S-rank shinobi are very powerful and a huge asset to any village, they also tend to be unstable. They are so powerful that they tend to go up against their leaders, which often result in them becoming missing ninja as they run away from their village. That's the reason as to how the Akatsuki organization was born. Usually S-rank shinobi only band together when there is someone stronger than them giving orders. Each village only has a handful of S-rank shinobi since the end of the clan wars. These times of peace had somewhat lowered the level of the shinobi. During the clan wars the life expectancy was nothing more than their 20s and you had to be strong to survive. Even more than now. Now Konoha suddenly has not only the known S-rank shinobi, but they also have another 8 S-ranked shinobi whose identity is classified. This was a major boost to their strength, and even more since they managed to hide them from the other villages. If what Tsunade said was true, then this group could easily conquer any other village out there. You would need around 200 to 300 shinobi to match the power of a single Kage-level shinobi. And this Kage-level shinobi could wipe them all out without much effort. "Sorry if we are late," Naruto said as every single dragon landed in front of Mei, all lined up in perfect formation. "Not at all. You are right on time," Mei said. "I'm Terumi Mei, leader of the rebel forces. My right-hand man is Ao and to my left is Chojuro," Mei explained, and everyone nodded. "Now it's our turn," Naruto said and pointed towards the beginning of the group. "He's the green dragon. He's a sensor, taijutsu and ninjutsu specialist," Naruto said, pointing towards Hashirama, who was wearing a dark forest green armor with a mask with the same color. "Next to him is the black dragon. She's our seal master," Naruto explained, and Mei nodded. "Next to her is the blue dragon. Sensor, water and space-time ninjutsu specialist," Naruto explained, and Mei raised an eyebrow. Space-time techniques were very rare, and to find someone who specialized in that was even rarer. "He's the yellow dragon. Taijutsu monster, extremely fast, standard and space-time ninjutsu specialist as well, seal master," Naruto explained, and at this point Mei could only nod. "Next to him is the red dragon. She's our kenjutsu expert and quite fast as well. She's a seal master as well as wind ninjutsu specialist," Naruto said and turned to Gaara. "Next we have the brown dragon. He was a special bloodline that allows him to control sand," Naruto said. "Next to me is the purple dragon. She's a taijutsu expert, highly skilled in water ninjutsu. Medical and poison specialist, infiltration, assassination and information gathering specialist," Naruto explained, and Hinata blushed beneath her mask with so much praise her Naruto-kun gave her. "And finally me, the leader of 8 dragons of the leaf. I'm an expert at everything, from taijutsu to ninjutsu, genjutsu, stealth, assassination, kenjutsu and so on," Naruto explained, and all 3 Kirinin could only nod. "Excellent," Mei started. "Our objective is to win the civil war and end this bloodshed. Let's move out," Mei said, and everyone jumped towards the Mist Village. Chapter 39: A Turning Point. No one really knows how it began, the bloodline purge that is. One only knows rumors and whispers that town folks spread around. Some say that Yagura himself suddenly woke up and decided to exterminate all living bloodline users because they posed a major threat to his leadership and regime. Some say that Yagura decided to purge every single bloodline shinobi after the Kagaya attack a few years ago. One night the Kagaya clan decided to simply attack the Mist village, their own village to begin with. While most shinobi blamed them for being some blood-crazed clan, Yagura persuaded his shinobi to the opposite. Instead of accepting that the Kagaya clan was, for lack of a better word, mental, Yagura spawned the theory that every skirmish and war was because of bloodlines. The bloodline would affect the shinobi, turning them into nothing more than a beast looking for blood and flesh. The people in Kiri were then blinded by their pain and hatred for the Kagaya attack that they believed in their leader without question. And thus began the bloodline purge. For years Yagura and his loyalist army composed of thousands of non-bloodline users started hunting down and killing every single bloodline user they found. That's the reason as to why Kiri was cut off from the other great villages for so many years. They had some internal problems to deal with. The bloodline users were forced to band together and leave the village if they wanted to survive. Terumi Mei rose through the ranks and became the indisputable leader of the rebel side of the army. Mei commands around 4,000 shinobi who are fighting to regain back their home. But the worst part is that they are fighting people they once considered comrades, friends, lovers. After years of skirmish, battles, blood and many deaths, Mei decided to turn towards the great shinobi villages to ask for aid to their cause. Mei decided to ask Konoha, the strongest of the 5 great villages, for help. She was lucky that her prayers were answered and she was given 8 hardened and strong shinobi to fight for her cause. The dragons had just introduced themselves to the rebel leader, Terumi Mei. Everyone was geared up and ready for their travel and fight against Yagura's tyrant regime. With a small wave of hand, every single shinobi blurred out of Konoha heading towards the mist trees seemed like blurs as everyone was moving fast. Mei had already left for a few days and it wasn't good the leader to be absent for long periods of time. Mei was leading the group. She was being flanked on the left by one of her bodyguards Chojuro and to her right-hand man Ao. Mei was extremely pleased with the help she got and couldn't wait for the war to be over. Chojuro was a bit fearful. He could feel that they were powerful shinobi, and could only hope that they didn't turn on them. Ao was another story. He didn't trust them in any way whatsoever. The little digression he had the dragon leader, Silver, only seemed to increase it. Something didn't feel right with these dragons. The 7 swordsmen of the mist never needed any masks to cover their faces. All this secrecy was driving him mad. Ao brought his right hand and made half the tiger seal. Ao focused chakra into his eye, the one covered by the black eye patch. His eyes suddenly glowed white, and his veins bulged out slightly, but everything was hidden by the patch. Ao gasped when he saw just what type of shinobi they were. They are monsters, every single one of them. Ao thought to himself, gasping for air, trying to keep his cool and not alert them. Their chakra levels were through the roof. The member with the lowest amount of chakra was the purple dragon, and even her had high Kage level reserves. Ao nearly fainted when he noticed just the amount of chakra the leader of the dragons had. The silver dragon's chakra seemed different from the standard. His chakra was brighter than most, and his reserves were on par with Bijou themselves. The silver dragon had more chakra than Hashigaki Kisame, who was renowned as the tailless Bijou. Ao focused his Byakugan in trying to see through the masks and find out the identity of these powerful shinobi. You know, Silver started. You already have something that belongs to Konoha. Don't push your luck by trying to find our identity, Silver said in a monotone voice, making Ao flinch. I don't know what you are referring to, Silver-san, Ao replied as he regained his composure. Mei just listened to the conversation quietly. Don't play games with me, Silver warned. I know that you have a Byakugan eye behind that eye patch, Silver explained, and Ao's single eye widened. Don't look so surprised. When we introduced ourselves, I believe I explained that half of us are sensors. We realized what you had hidden beneath your eye patch the moment you turned it on, Silver explained, and Ao was sweating at this point. Don't misunderstand us, Silver said in a calmer voice. We don't intend to remove your eye, but we wear masks for a purpose, Silver explained, and Ao sighed in relief. I understand and appreciate it, Ao replied, and Silver nodded, turning to Mei. I believe it's best for us to be informed of your current situation, Silver said, and Mei nodded, gathering her thoughts. Currently we have around 4,000 bloodline users in the rebel army. Yugura is the Jinchuriki of the Sanbai. He has full control over his bijou and he controls the Mist Village along with near 6,000 non-bloodline shinobi. Mei started. As you most likely know, Water Country is formed by multiple islands. The biggest island, located in the center of the country, is where the Mist Village is. This island is surrounded by several other where there are several outposts. Our army is spread out between two islands which we managed to capture the strongholds. Mei explained. We can't push forward into the main island without taking over the other 3 remaining strongholds first, and even then it will be very difficult. Yugura has full control over his bijou and can obliterate the army if we attack in numbers. However, there isn't anyone strong enough to face Yugura on his own, not even me. Mei finished sadly. The rebel said had fought for years but nothing seemed to change. If your main problem is Yugura, then with us he shouldn't be a problem. Silver started noticing the incredulous look on Mei's face. There was a reason as to why bijou were so important to nations. They were the real army killers. The Jinchuriki, when properly trained, could wipe hundreds of shinobi in the blink on an eye, and they were hard to kill. Our group has 4 seal masters, but above else. Silver trailed off and he motioned Green to do a little show-off. Green chuckled and clapped his hands together in the snake seal. A tree popped from the ground, giving Green another step to further his jump. And Mokutan would release. Mei whispered, staring the green-colored dragon. She couldn't see it, but she knew he was laughing like crazy behind that mask. Although only Senju Hashirama could use the Mokutan. Mei said, shocked by the events. Well, the green dragon can do it just as well as Hashirama could back in the day. Silver replied, chuckling to himself. To think that Konoha had another Mokutan user in hiding. Mei said, chuckling. Not to mention another Senju clan member. Mei said in afterthought. As you see, the Senju clan is still strong, and not some dying breed. Silver explained, chuckling, as he was also member of the Senju clan, but Mei didn't know that. Hi. Mei replied, and everyone rushed even faster with renewed spirits. Few days later, Mist Country border. Here we are. Mei said as they arrived near the border. The last few days of travels were uneventful. I advise some caution as we are about to enter the Mist Country, and it's still controlled by Yugura. Mei warned, and everyone nodded. I have a question, the purple dragon said, and Mei motioned her to go on. Why didn't the water daimyo intercede when this civil war started? Purple asked. I mean, he should know that a divided village would weaken the entire country. It's just by luck that the other nations were still weak from the Third Shinobi War, or they might considered conquering the mist. Purple stated. It was of no use when we tried to talk to the daimyo, Mei sadly said. This all began when the Kagaya clan attacked. Their members were always bloodthirsty and they didn't seem sane. One day the Kagaya attacked the Mist Village, their own home to begin with. Some members of this clan had a special Kekiai Genkai that allowed them to manipulate bones. Mei said, but Silver interrupted her. Shikatsumiyaku, dead bone pulse. I killed the last of the Kagayas 3 years ago. Silver said, sighing, and Mei knew that killing was never easy, but knowing that it'd be the end of a clan, it would be worse. Only a few members of this clan were able to the dead bone pulse, but these few were extremely strong and very hard to kill. After the bloodbath, Yugura announced the bloodline purge with the daimyo's support. And the rest is history. Mei concluded, and Ao sighed. I wonder what kind of leader slaughters their own men. While I agree he should protect his own village at any cost, no one in their right mind would do something like this, Green said in afterthought. No one really knows why he chose to do it. Mei started. Yugura was always a good leader. He was kind and warm to his people, and, even though he was a Jinchuriki, his village still loved him and chose him as their leader. Mei explained. She as well couldn't understand how someone could change like this, but she guessed that pain can change a lot of things. Pain changes people, Silver said in a monotone voice. Kushina looked towards Naruto with concern. Naruto had told her that in the beginning, Konoha hated him, but she didn't think they were physical towards him. Man. It's foggy, Green said. The fog is a natural defense of the Mist Country. Our shinobi are born in it, and, as such, they are used to living in these conditions. Mei explained, and Green nodded, although he already knew that. This damn country is still foggy, even after so many years, Green thought. Sizzle, trap, Silver yelled, and everyone jumped away and landed together nearby. BOOM, the place where they were exploded, blowing away the mist and creating a crater on the ground. Swaytun Mizurapa, wild water wave. Multiple voices shouted. Everyone looked to their sides to see a gigantic water wave coming to crush them all. Brown, Silver yelled, and Brown, Gaara nodded. Sand started flowing from inside his seals and created a protective dome around them. The water crashed against the sand and did nothing but shake it a little bit from the impact. Once Brown had let the sand down, a group of shinobi jumped in front of Mei and the dragons. "Looks like the information was right," the apparent leader of the group stated. "You really went to recruit more monsters to fight," the leader said, scowling. "How did they find out?" Ao asked, confused. "You most likely have a spy in your army," Silver stated, getting ready for combat, his eyes glowing red behind his mask. The enemy had severely underestimated them. They had sent a mere 10-member ambush squad against 11 trained shinobi. "Katon Goka Mekyaku, Great Fire Annihilation," Silver said as his hands blurred towards the horse seal. He unleashed a wall of flames against the opposition, who scrambled to get away from the flames. "Futon de Tapa, Great Breakthrough," Purple said, taking a deep breath and releasing a gust of wind, powering up the flames' speed and intensity. "Attack Formation E," Silver stated, and every dragon nodded, going to their respective positions. Mei, Ao, and Chojuro just watched from the sidelines Konoha's elite fighting force at work. The opposing Kiri shinobi knew that they could never get away from the wall of flames. The range was simply far too great, and even more once powered by a wind attack. "Suetun Sujin Hiki, Water Wall," the Kiri force shouted as they unleashed water from their mouths to counteract the fire. Naruto's fire attack was simply too strong to be stopped by standard water defensive techniques. The fire easily evaporated the water and bypassed their defenses. 2 unlucky Kiri shinobi were used as meat shields, while the others took the opportunity to jump away. "Sand binding, Brown Gaara," whispered as he crouched, placing his hands on the ground. "Chain-style chain forest," Red Kushina whispered, crouching on the ground as well. "Mokutan, wood release, piercing stakes," Green shouted, and he clasped his hands together. Several trees sprouted from the ground and blurred towards the shinobi opposition. The Kiri shinobi tried to jump away but found themselves with their feet trapped. They looked to the ground to find sand and chains wrapped around their feet. The trees continued on their path and pierced most of shinobi, killing them all almost instantly. Mei, Ao, and Chojuro had their jaws on the ground. These dragons had just decimated 10 shinobi that weren't fresh and out of the academy. Yagura wouldn't send some lowly skilled shinobi against Mei, Ao, and Chojuro. To kill these 3 it would require shinobi of above average skill. "That was over way too quickly. I didn't even get to use my sword," Red Kushina pouted, while Silver noticed one shinobi who managed to survive and jump away, trying to get away. "Deva Path Bansho Tenon," Silver said, pointing his right hand palm towards the fleeing shinobi. Silver's eyes were glowing silver behind his mask. The shinobi froze mid-air and started flying towards Silver, who caught him by the throat and slammed him against the ground. "Green, if you please," Silver said, and Green nodded, using a few trees to pin the Kiri shinobi to the ground. The Kiri shinobi was kneeling on the ground with trees attached to the legs and both arms. "Why you, Pant, might as well, Pant, kill me. I'll never talk," the Kiri shinobi panted, trying to ready himself for possible torture. He himself was already bleeding from 2 punctures wounds because of the wood and had several burn marks. He wouldn't last much longer. "You don't have to," Silver said, walking towards the Kiri shinobi and placing his hand on top of his head. "Human path," Silver said, and everything the Kiri shinobi ever knew, learned, and experienced flowed into Silver's mind. "Is he a Yamanaka?" Mei wondered in thought as she watched Silver concentrate and enter the enemy's mind. They never knew of any Yamanaka that was this powerful, much less with such chakra capacity. "You do have a spy in your army. Yagura himself said so when he briefed this team to the ambush mission. Although he's way too low in the food chain to know any relevant information," Silver said before another thought came into his mind. "Let's even the playing field," Silver said, taking a few steps back. "Naraka path," Silver said, pointing his arm to an empty spot on the ground. Suddenly a massive head sprouted from the ground, surrounded by purple flames. It was the King of Hell, and Silver had summoned him. "What the hell is that?" Ao yelled, taking a step back, making Chojuro grasp his sword. "Silver, what are you doing?" Yellow, Minato, asked, curious as to what his son was doing. "Is he going to heal the enemy shinobi?" Yellow thought. Suddenly a bright green light started glowing in the King of Hell's mouth and flew into the Kiri shinobi. The Kiri shinobi's body started glowing and all of his wounds started healing. The flesh started mending itself together. His bones snapped to their proper location. Once the blood had been swiped away from his skin, The Kiri shinobi stood there perfectly healed. What? How? Why did you do this? The Kiri shinobi asked, completely confused as to what happened. Nothing you will remember, Silver said, walking towards the Kiri shinobi and crouching in front of him. Look into my eyes, Silver said with his manjikyu glowing behind his mask. The Kiri shinobi's eyes widened and he let out a gasp, and he was drawn and frozen, staring into Silver's eyes. The Sharingan, that's how he placed Chojuro in a genjutsu with just a glance, Ao thought, shocked by the revelation. Of course, long blonde hair, the eye contact, entering the another's mindscape, the fan on his back. Mei thought to herself, chuckling. You are a loyal shinobi to Torimi, Mei. You don't hate the bloodline users. You infiltrated Yagura's army as a spy under Mei's orders. Understood? Silver asked, and the Kiri shinobi simply nodded. His eyes were blank and dead. Kodo Amatsukami, Silver said, completing his technique and making the Kiri shinobi blink slowly as his eyes regained their usual brown color. Green released the wooden tentacles and the Kiri shinobi quickly rose. He walked calmly and kneeled before Mei. What are your orders, Mei-sama? The Kiri shinobi said, kneeling in front of her with his head lowered. What did you do? Mei asked, completely bewildered. This was my most powerful illusion. This illusion is so powerful that the victim doesn't even know he's being affected. It allows me to enter my opponent's mind and manipulate them by giving them false experiences, making it seem as if they were doing things of their own free will. It is regarded as a genjutsu of the highest class due to the victim being entirely unaware that they are being manipulated, Silver explained, rising, and Mei gulped. Though I can only apply it to weak-minded people. Shinobi with strong minds can try and fight it, to them it would end as a clash of my mind against theirs. Silver explained, and everyone let out a sigh of relief, minus Chojuro, of course, who was still shaking. You lived to the expectation. Senju Naruto, Mei said with an amused tone, making everyone freeze except Naruto, who chuckled. How did you find out? Naruto asked as he removed his silver mask. Blood-red Sharingan eyes looking towards Mei. That Yamanaka-style jutsu did throw me off, but when I heard you saying look into my eyes and that fan on your back, coupled with your blonde hair, made it hard to be mistaken. Mei explained. It lasted longer than I thought it would, Naruto said, chuckling while the rest of the dragons shook their heads. Tsunade-sensei is going to be pissed. Purple, Hinata thought. So you Uchiha Madara's grandson, Ao said, stepping forward and looking straight into Naruto's Sharingan eyes. Why does everyone instantly says my gramps' name? Naruto rhetorically asked. I mean, Senju Hashirama and my father Namake's Minato were legends on their own right, Naruto stated. Yes, but Madara outshone them, Ao simply replied. I tamed the 9 Bijou and formed the village system / I killed a battalion of shinobi with a single jutsu. Hashirama and Minato both thought, drawing circles on the ground while both redheads tried to comfort their husbands. What's your name? Mei asked towards the kneeling shinobi. Han. Han replied. The ambush has failed since we had help from Konoha. You are to continue your spy work. Report every week or when you find pertinent news, Mei ordered. As you wish, Mei-sama, Han answered, and quickly turned to leave and report to his leader Yagura. They were smart enough to ambush us in the border, Blue stated. Yagura is no fool. Even he knows that he can't face Konoha as of right now, and ambushing us in the Fire Country territory could be a deadly mistake, Mei replied. Let's continue. We are close to our main base, Mei said, and everyone nodded. Few days later, during the last few days, everything changed in the Mist Country. Everyone in the rebel side was extremely pleased to see the help that Konoha had sent them. Senju Tsunade had even sent her own grandson, Senju Naruto, to help. Not that the others' dragons did nothing, but they needed a public face strong enough to boost the morale. And who anyone better than a member of both the Senju and Uchiha's clan? The rebels had come out on top of every single skirmish during the last few days. Due to Naruto, Yellow and Blue's space-time techniques, they were able to be present everywhere. Every battalion was gifted with kunais, each one key to either Naruto, Yellow or Blue. So when the battalion was in trouble with their battlefront, they would throw the kunai into the middle of the enemy. Several flashes later, and the skirmish was won. Coupling everything with Hinata's remarkable medical capabilities, the war had shifted with the rebel getting the upper hand. Slowly but surely, the rebel side began pushing the loyalists back on all fronts. It was time to start conquering the 3 remaining strongholds so that they could start pushing towards the Mist Village itself. Mei and Ao were standing in the middle of a room with several cartographic maps planning the Resistance's next move. "How is the approach looking?" Naruto asked as he came into the room. "Not good at all. These forts were built to last and withstand heavy siege," Mei said, sighing. "I could blow it up from a distance," Naruto said, and Ao looked at him like he grew a second head. "What?" Naruto asked rhetorically. "I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko. I can send a tailed beast ball and blow the stronghold sky high," Naruto explained, and Ao's sweat dropped. "I would like to have my village in one piece when we are done with this war, thank you very much," Mei stated, and Naruto chuckled. "Each stronghold is built to be both a prison and an impenetrable castle. The walls are of hard stone and the gates are made of chakra-reinforced wood," Mei explained. "Can't we just climb the walls?" Naruto asked, but Mei shook her head. Due to this country's climate, those walls have small layers of water, making it very difficult to climb to ordinary shinobi. The chakra control required is very high. Besides, they have sentries on every tower 24 hours a day. They would spot us a mile away," Mei answered, nursing her head. "Storming these strongholds was always a pain in the butt. They managed to get the last two by overwhelming them with numbers. How about we go from underneath with a few Doton users?" Naruto asked, but Mei shook her head once again. "Then I'll go in alone and open the gates from the inside," Naruto said as he memorized the terrain from the map using his Sharingan. "I don't need to climb walls to enter the fort," Naruto said, and Mei raised an eyebrow. "My space-time techniques are on a whole new level. I can easily walk through walls and other barriers," Naruto explained, and to demonstrate he started sinking into the ground and reappeared behind Mei. "Send yellow and purple to the other strongholds, while I take the main one. They are the best at stealth and should be able to sneak in easily," Naruto explained, and Mei nodded. "According to Han, Yagura is gathering the main army in the village. He seems to already be expecting for us to be able to conquer these strongholds before advancing," Mei said, and Naruto nodded. "Let's gear up for the siege," Naruto said, and everyone left the room. Next day, "Is everything ready?" Naruto asked Mei. Since she was the commander of the troops, it was her job to coordinate everything. "The troops are ready to storm the stronghold once the gate is open. They are about 500 meters away from it, shrouded by the mist," Mei explained, and Naruto nodded. "Yellow, purple," Naruto called out. "Get ready. Coordinate your siege with Ao and Chojuro," Naruto said, and they both nodded. Naruto then turned to the rest of the dragons. "Red, green, and blue, you are with the Ao's troops into storming Yellow's stronghold. Black and brown, you are with Chojuro's troops," Naruto ordered, and everyone nodded, walking away into their respective positions. "Purple," Naruto called out, and she walked towards him. "I'm delivering you the closest I can to the castle," Naruto said, and she nodded. Naruto discreetly handed her a 3-pronged kunai. "You be careful, alright, and call me if you need," Naruto whispered in a gentle voice. "Don't worry so much, Naruto-kun," Purple replied, taking the kunai and putting it in her pockets. "Of course I worry," Naruto said, and grabbed Purple by the waist, flashing away. "So she's Hyuga Hinata, interesting," Mei concluded to herself once she caught a glimpse of the intimate moment between the purple dragon and Naruto. Just from that small glance she could see that they were very close and that Naruto held her safety above everything. Northern Stronghold. It was a very dark night. The many clouds that there were covered the whole sky, blocking the stars and the small light coming from the moon. Night was the ally of the shinobi. The shinobi were trained assassins, sound was their enemy, the darkness their friend. The only thing visible were the torches on the stronghold and a pair of blood-red eyes glowing in the dark as they scanned the surroundings. Mei shivered as she looked towards Naruto. It was so dark that it was difficult to see in much detail anything coming from Naruto, but she could clearly see his eyes. Those blood-red eyes with 3 tomos shining and swirling in the night. Those eyes that seemed to belong to demons. Those eyes were scanning everything as if looking for prey. Those eyes belonged to hunters. Naruto, Mei were standing just outside of the stronghold with 1,000 shinobi behind them. They were about to seize the biggest and strongest of the 5 strongholds. This one was different from the other from the fact that it was not only bigger but housed more shinobi inside. Unlike the others where the shinobi just took shifts, this stronghold actually housed living quarters and had full-time shinobi working and guarding it. The other must have already began their attack. "I'm moving into position," Naruto said, and Mei nodded. Naruto swirled away and Mei turned to her troops and let them know to get ready. Naruto reappeared outside of the stronghold's walls. He leaned against the wall, being shrouded by the darkness and enveloped by the shadows of the night. One of the benefits of the Sharingan was night vision. Naruto could see at night just as he could see during the day. The fact that his vision was black and white with only chakra having color didn't seem to bother him much. Naruto did a quick head count and counted 10 sentries. 4s were standing inside 4 tall towers overlooking the plains in front of them, while the remaining 6 guards were patrolling the walls. Naruto pondered what to do. Should he kill the sentries and then go for the gate, or simply bypass them all and open the gates without them even knowing? Naruto opted for the first. If he took the sentries and then opened the gates, the army would be able to approach the stronghold and enter it without being detected. Yagura's men wouldn't know what happened until the rebels were already inside the castle, and then it would be too late. Naruto quickly formed a mental plan. He swirled away and appeared in each tower just behind the enemies. Naruto covered the enemy's mouth with his hand. The enemy shinobi's eyes widened when he saw a black spear appear from Naruto's other hand going for his neck. He quickly killed them, stabbing them in the throat so that they couldn't scream and alert anyone. With the main sentries gone, he made his way to kill the wall guards. Using the sentry tower as a vantage point, Naruto quickly scanned the inside of the stronghold. He was lucky. The only guards seemed to be at the towers and outer walls. Inside, everything was quiet, as most shinobi were most likely still sleeping and some few getting ready for a shift change. Naruto threw a single 3-pronged kunai into the air and watched it sail through the air. As the kunai sailed, Naruto flashed towards the kunai and appeared in a yellow flash mid-air. The guards only saw a small glint as several shurikens came flying towards them, killing them swiftly. Naruto quickly disposed of the bodies by burying them using a small earth jutsu, because otherwise using a fire jutsu could alert the enemy. Once the enemies had been dealt, Naruto stealthily entered the inside houses of the stronghold. Naruto thanked the heavens by being a sensor, thus allowing him to find enemies more easily. After all, while the Sharingan was an excellent weapon, it didn't allow him to see through walls like the Byakugan could. Naruto walked through the corridors but used the ceiling. One of the things that Jiraiya had taught him is that people very rarely look up. Naruto quietly chuckled when he saw a patrol of 2 shinobi just walk by without even detecting him. Naruto saw some lights coming from one of the rooms of the hall. Naruto used his kamui and phased through the walls. He ended up in the medical ward of the room. Keeping inside of the wall, he noticed that were a few guards in the room, which didn't make sense to him unless the medics were prisoners and working against their will. Couple that with a heavy atmosphere and the smell of fear, and Naruto was certain of that. Naruto made a single shadow clone and positioned him behind the other guard, as Naruto wouldn't be able to take one out without the other noticing it. THUMP every medic inside the ward turned around to see both guards plummet to the ground. They were shocked to see a blond man with Sharingan eyes standing in the middle of the room. Every medic took a step back, thinking they were about to suffer the same fate as the guards. "I can get you all out of here," Naruto said, looking at them. There are about 10 medics, all dressed in the standard white garb. "We are about to storm this stronghold, and in the midst of the fight you might get killed," Naruto explained, and one medic took a step forward. "Thank you for saving us," the woman said. She had an apparent normal face with dark hair and pitch black eyes. "My name is Nao," Nao said, and Naruto nodded. Naruto created a shadow clone and gathered all of the medics in one small group. In a single flash of yellow, everyone had left. Naruto made a few shadow clones and had them hinged into the medics and the 2 guards to make sure that if someone appeared they wouldn't suspect anything. Outside, with Mimi was startled by the sudden yellow flash that appeared right next to her. May turned to see the new coming and noticed it was Naruto and what appeared to be 10 medics. They were prisoners being forced as medics. "I'm just a clone that was sent to deliver them. Boss is almost at the gate," Naruto said, and May nodded as Naruto dispelled in smoke. "Show them to the medical stations," May ordered, and the medics were led towards the medical tents. No one ever noticed the small smirk on Nao's face and the glow of red with black markings appearing in her eyes. Back in the stronghold, once Naruto had left the medical ward, he continued through the long corridor until he found the exit that led to the outer ring of the stronghold. Naruto looked forward and spotted the gate a bit far away. He contemplated what method he would use to open gate, was it didn't seem particularly easy. The gate had heavy weights and it would require at least 3 people to open it. May was right when she said that the gate was reinforced with chakra, as Naruto could see small traces of it running through the wood. Naruto wanted to open the gate without making noise because it would make the rebels' approach easier. "No other way," Naruto said as he swirled away and arrived near the gate. Naruto placed his hand on the wood, and a large array started crawling from his hands and spreading through the wood. By the design, it was a standard explosive tag but magnified a few times. Naruto finished the seal and pumped chakra to charge it up. Naruto swirled away to safety and braced himself. Naruto made a singled hand seal and the gate started to glow. Boom! The gate exploded with the wooden doors being blasted away from the stronghold. Every single shinobi inside the stronghold was woken for the sound of the explosion, and surely, moments later a loud siren started echoing through the night. That was enough sign for Mei to order her troops to move forward. Charge! Mei yelled as she and all of her troops suddenly jumped out of the mist and started running full speed towards the castle. Not even 5 seconds later and the stronghold was being swarmed by 1,000 fully armed shinobi. Loud explosion and the sound of metal clashing was heard through all of the stronghold. Mei, Naruto said as he jumped from the walls and rendezvoused with Mei. Take a few hundred shinobi. Circle the castle and infiltrate from the back gate, Naruto said, and Mei got confused. There is no back gate, Mei stated. I made one, Naruto seriously said, and Mei's eye twitched. It's a small hole. You can fix it later, Naruto explained, and Mei sighed. Platoon A to D, come with me, Mei ordered, and circled the castle and stormed it from behind, sandwiching the enemy behind 2 fronts. Well, Naruto heard and turned to meet Ankiri shinobi who seemed to be unaffected by the pandemonium running through the base. We meet at last, Senju Naruto, the shinobi said. And you are? Naruto asked, looking intently at the man. He wore the standard kiri with the flak jacket and pinstriped leg and arm guards. Where are my manners? My name is Toshio and one of newer members of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, Toshio said as he took out a sword from behind his back. It was one big cleaver to make it simple. I see, Naruto said, channeling chakra to his wrist seals, and his old Chikuto popped into existence. I always thought that the Senju clan was overrated. After all, the strongest clan was decimated during the First and Second Shinobi War while the weakest ones lasted, Toshio taunted, but the taunt was met with a motionless and serious face. Show me what you are worth, Senju Naruto, Konoha no Raijin, son of the Kuroi Senko and grandson of Uchiha Madara, Toshio yelled, running towards Naruto with his cleaver held up high. Naruto quickly analyzed the enemy with his Sharingan, and could see that he was nothing than a mere jounin with standard chakra reserves. I guess the swordsman title went over his head, Naruto thought to himself, and thanked the heavens for him having Hinata. Otherwise he would go all god on other people. Toshio brought down his giant cleaver, trying to split Naruto on half, but only caught Naruto's afterimage. Toshio only knew he missed when his sword hit the ground. Toshio turned around and used the flat side of his sword to block a horizontal slash from Naruto. Chidori Nagashi, Naruto said, and his sword and hands sparkled with electricity. By both swords being made with metal, Naruto's electric attack got transferred toward Toshio and made him spasm. He jumped up and back with his hands smoking. Toshio placed the sword on his back and started going through hand seals. One particular jutsu that Naruto knew all too well. Kirigakure no Jutsu, hidden mist jutsu, Toshio said, and the grounds where they were fighting became all covered in mist. This is the end, brat, Toshio said as he disappeared inside the mist. Naruto just shook his head and stayed relaxed in the same place. Why bother moving at all when you can't see half an inch ahead of him? Naruto quickly knew that Toshio was an amateur at the art of silent killing. Naruto could hear him breathing for the love of God. Naruto was getting bored by the fight and decided to end it when Toshio made his move. Die! Toshio yelled as he appeared behind Naruto with his cleaver, getting ready to cut Naruto in half. And cut he did, or so he thought as he watched the blade pass through Naruto and exit at the other end. What are you? Toshio yelled. Naruto turned around and locked eyes with him. Toshio stared at his manjikyu blazing, and he never knew that it was the last thing he would ever see. Your end, though I won't kill you. You seem pretty high up in the food chain, so you might know some valuable information, Naruto said as his manjikyu glowed. Toshio was completely absorbed into Naruto's eyes in a matter of seconds. Let's get this over with, Naruto said, and blurred towards the corridors and halls, killing everyone that got in his way. Katon Goka Mekyaku, Great Fire Annihilation, Raiton Rariyuden, Lightning Dragon, Suiton Suryuden no Jutsu, Water Dragon. Naruto unleashed jutsu after jutsu, decimating everything in front of him. No one could stop his onslaught of jutsu. From gigantic walls of flames to water and lightning dragons. The siege on the stronghold was brief and swift. In a mere hour the stronghold had been conquered. With AO red, green, blue and yellow, the attack on the other stronghold had also been swift and efficient. Yellow, Minato, had successfully infiltrated the stronghold and proceeded to slam a big Rasengan against the wooden gates. Once the gates were down, Yellow's forces swarmed the castle and quickly captured it with the use of the Hiraishin and some high-level water jutsus. With Chojuro, black, brown and purple, while purple, Hinata, didn't any fancy space-time techniques. She didn't require them to be an extremely effective shinobi. Just with her Byakugan and her extremely accurate aim, coupling that with deadly poisons, she was a force to be reckoned with. Though Purple was supposed to infiltrate the castle, she took a different approach. Purple simply approached the gates from the outside, without no one even noticing her, and simply punched the gates. The wooden gates that were supposed to withstand heavy siege were simply blown from their hinges and crashed into the back of the stronghold. "That's one scary woman," Chojuro shakily said while Black Mito laughed. Mito did taught Tsunade the basics of super strength, though Tsunade managed to refine it to a whole new level. With brown sand and black shields, the life losses were slim to none. Purple led the attack and they decimated the enemy in a matter of hours. Next, Ame, Ao, Chojuro and most of the dragons were gathered at the main stronghold, the one Naruto and Mei conquered. The castle had a cheerful ambient. This was the most they ever achieved in almost 2 years of fighting. "We did one hell of a progress today," Mei said, and her troops cheered. "Just a few more days and everything would be over. We have Naruto and his dragons to thank for," Mei said. "You don't hobby." A massive explosion echoed through the grounds, making everything shake from the power. Naruto and the dragons quickly made their way towards the surveillance towers and they managed to see the location of the explosion, not too far away. "That's the medical stations," Mei stated while Naruto realized that Hinata was there doing what she could to heal the injured. "Hinata!" Naruto yelled and started running since he couldn't sense her marker anymore. The rest of the dragons and Mei run towards the location of the explosion as well. Medical camps. Few minutes earlier, Purple was working at the main tent healing the injured. The loss of life during the siege was minimal, but there was always injured shinobi. Hinata was a very good healer and extremely skilled in the mystical palm. Apparently, the better your chakra control was, the more efficient was the technique. "The bones are in their proper place. Give it a few days and you will back to new," Purple said, and the shinobi thanked her. Hinata quickly finished the remaining patients and went for checkup routine on all of them before she decided to leave. "Takumi-san," Purple said as she entered the room of the head doctor. "I'm leave dash," Purple was saying, but stopped when she saw Takumi's body on the ground in a pool on his own blood. Purple quickly rushed him only to find out he was assassinated if his slit throat was anything to go by. Hinata activated her Byakugan just in time to see a hail of kunais and shurikens being thrown at her. "Kaiten," Purple said, and started spinning in a blue dome of chakra and blocking every single projectile that was thrown at her. "Would you look at that?" Now rhetorically asked as she jumped down from her hiding spot, landing in front of Purple smirking. "I get to kill a Hyuga," Now said grinning. "Now, why are doi dash?" Hinata was about to ask what was going on when she looked to Nao's eyes. They were blood red with 3 black tomos. "Sharingan, how is that possible?" Purple whispered with her mind running a mile per second. "You can't be an Uchiha. It is not possible. The only remaining Uchihas are Naruto, Sasuke and that Tobi fellow." Purple explained, not mentioning Minato's name. "I don't know anything about that," Nao said, chuckling as her Sharingan started spinning, gaining a completely new appearance. What was once the standard Sharingan now looked like a vortex, and given the fact that the Sharingan was spinning, it gave the effect of drawing Purple to her eyes. "A Manjikyu," Purple said as she broke the trance from looking at her eyes. "Yes, dear. A eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, you stand no chance," Nao said as she smirked. Nao blurred through hand seals and took a deep breath. "Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique," Nao said and released a fireball towards Purple. Purple jumped away to avoid, and the whole medical tent went up in flames, making it nothing more than a battlefield. "Suetun Surgeon Hiki, water wall," Purple said mid-air and released a small water wall to block the flames that decimated the tent. "Suetun Suryuden no Jutsu, water dragon," Purple said as she used the water she expelled from her mouth and formed a water dragon. The dragon rocketed towards Nao, but it was countered by a fire dragon that nullified her attack. "You not bad for a medic," Nao taunted as the steam began to spread, lessening its thickness. Purple dashed towards Now, who smirked and got ready to face the Hyuga in battle. While Now knew that you should never face a Hyuga in taijutsu, she was an Uchiha. Purple and Now met halfway and began exchanging multiple punches and kicks. They were just trying to get a feel for their opponent. "Let's up this, shall we?" Now said as her eyes began to glow. Hinata had no choice but to disable her Byakugan. If Hinata had her Byakugan active, there was no way she could avert from looking at the Sharingan. "Amaterasu," Now said, and Hinata erupted in black flames. Now smirked but quickly dropped it when Hinata burst at water. "Tsutenkyaku, heavenly foot of pain," Purple said as came down from the sky with her leg raised, ready to strike. Now's eyes widened when the chakra built up in her leg and had no choice. Now's eyes glowed once again. She jumped up and back, coiling herself as a purple ethereal ribcage appeared around her. Hinata's heel connected and the ground erupted from the attack. Now was blasted backwards and crashed into the ground, making her Susanoo crack. "You really are something else. If I didn't have this, you would have one," Now said as her Susanoo started reforming and completely erased the cracks. "Susanoo," Purple stated as the dust cleared. "How do you know this power?" Now curiously asked. "I know all about the Susanoo and his weakness," Purple stated while Now took it as an offense to her eyes. "The Susanoo has no weakness, it's our ultimate defense," Now said as her chakra flared. "I beg to differ," Purple said, crouching on the ground and going through hand seals. "Heijutsu Mugen no aim, secret technique, endless rain," Purple said, crouching on the ground. Soon enough clouds started gathering and rain started to fall. "The Susanoo's weakness is himself. The Susanoo is created of pure chakra and as such can be absorbed," Purple explained, and Nao's eyes widened when her Susanoo began to show signs of starting to melt. However, Nao would have nothing of that and funneled more chakra into her eyes, making the Susanoo regain his balance. "Your rain is useless," Nao said, laughing while Hinata shook her head inwardly. "The Susanoo already eats a lot of chakra. By using my rain, I'm making you double the amount required to stabilize it. The bigger the Susanoo, the more chakra it eats. And your chakra reserves are the standard Kage level. You won't last much longer," Purple thought to herself, analyzing the battlefield. Purple suddenly dashed towards Nao, who smirked and braced herself. Nao's Susanoo swung her purple ethereal saber. Purple simply crouched on the ground, making the blade fly by harmlessly above her head. Purple quickly rose from the ground and in a burst of speed she arrived near Nao. Purple cocked her fist back and smashed it against the shield, cracking it. Nao was pissed as she was pushed back by a medic of all people. Nao pushed more chakra into the Susanoo, and it began expanding, covering the ribs and starting to form some humanoid form. Nao rose from the ground and her Susanoo started swinging the saber wildly, trying to hit the elusive purple dragon. "Suetun!" Purple started going through hand seals but was stopped by a burst of black flames right on top of her mask. Purple quickly stopped channeling chakra into her mask and it fell to the ground, revealing the face of one Hyuga Hinata. "So I was fighting Hyuga Hinata. Now it all makes sense," Nao stated, shaking her head. "No other Hyuga could give me the headache you are giving," Nao said, getting ready to strike once again. "While she's using the Susanoo, she's restrained to only using that saber," Hinata thought, crouching and absorbing the chakra she stole from Nao's Susanoo. "Dokujiri poison mist," Hinata said, and took a deep breath and released a cloud of purple-looking smoke into the area. "Shit," Nao said, cursing her luck and taking a deep breath. Nao began swinging the sword wildly, trying to get rid of the damn poison mist. "Suetun Teppadama, water bullet, Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone," Hinata shouted from multiple directions. Hundreds of water bullets and shurikens rained down of Nao's Susanoo, who buckled from the pressure. Nao was pushing more and more chakra into her shield, trying to sustain it to block all the incoming projectiles. Hinata appeared right in front of Nao and smashed her fist into her Susanoo, making visible cracks appear on the shell. Nao was thrown backwards and crashed into the ground. Nao coughed and held her head in pain just as she saw Hinata coming down from the sky once again. "Tsutenkyaku, heavenly foot of pain," Hinata said, and smashed her heel into Nao's Susanoo, cracking everything and making a huge crater appear. Hinata jumped back and crouched on the ground, taking a deep breaths. "You bitch," Nao said, appearing from the dust cloud, nursing her bleeding arm, also taking deep breaths. Nao locked eyes with Hinata and said, petrifying gaze 1. Hinata was drawn into Nao's eyes as they began to spin, forming a vortex and petrifying Hinata in place. Hinata was frozen in place, but it wasn't a genjutsu. She didn't know what it was, but once she looked into her manjikyu, Hinata was suddenly frozen in place. "Now die," Now sweetly said, dashing towards Hinata with a kunai raised. Now smiled as she buried the kunai in her chest, killing her. Hinata exploded in smoke and another Hinata rose from the water. Now turned just in time to see a chakra-pumped fist smashing into her face. Now was thrown into the ground and Hinata knew she was going to stay down for good this time. Beaten by some medic, pathetic, Now said, spitting out blood. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. Now said and started laughing as she was making half a tiger sign. Hinata's eyes widened when she saw explosive tags spread around all the camp. Apparently Nao's primary objective was the destruction of the medical camp. Die now yelled and Hinata crouched on the ground and started spinning. Swaytun Kaiten, Hinata said. Hinata was enveloped in a blue dome of churka with water spinning around her as well. Hinata tried to make her kaiten as flatter as possible so that she could better dissipate the energy of the explosion. The whole area exploded and became covered in flames. Hinata held on during the explosion, keeping her rotation up as far as she could. Hinata was forced to drop the rotation mid-spin and was blasted away, although not taking the full damage from the explosion. The flames lit up the sky due to the magnitude of the explosion. Once the flames had died down and the dust started to clear, everything was gone. The medical tents, the patients and doctors inside. Everything was vaporized. Hinata rose from the ground. She was a complete mess. She had light burns around her arms and hands. Her clothes were singed and half of chest plate armor was destroyed. Hinata sat on the ground taking deep breaths and trying to fight off unconsciousness when she saw a blonde blur. She smiled, knowing very well who that blur was. It was her knight in shining armor. Well, not shining per se, but it was close enough. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, closing her eyes and embracing unconsciousness. Chapter 40 God of War. Previously. Hinata sat on the ground taking deep breaths and trying to fight off unconsciousness when she saw a blonde blur. She smiled, knowing very well who that blur was. It was her knight in shining armor. Well, not shining per se, but it was close enough. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, closing her eyes and embracing unconsciousness. Now Naruto almost stumbled as he got to the medical stations. Even to his trained blue eyes the surroundings were nothing but a blur as he was racing towards the site of the explosion. The others tried their best to catch to him, but only the dragons and Mei could keep up with him, and even then they were strained to do so. Naruto arrived at the medical stations and saw nothing but fire. The medical tents were decimated and only a large crater and fire could be seen. Naruto's heart was racing as he scanned his surroundings trying to find Hinata. Naruto knew she was here and most likely got caught in the blast. Hinata, Naruto yelled but got no reply. He looked around trying to find any sign of life. Kit, Kurama called out from inside his mind. I can sense her. A few meters to the east, she's not alone, Kurama said, and Naruto disappeared again. Naruto arrived at the location Kurama had said and found Hinata leaning against a rock. She was unconscious, that Naruto could see from far away. In a flash Naruto was by her side and just in time to block an array of shurikens that were coming for her. Naruto blocked all of the shuriken and looked towards they came from, only to notice a shinobi shunshin away. It was only a glimpse, but Naruto could see that she was female, and she was that medic, now, he had saved from when he infiltrated the strongholds. Naruto took Hinata in his arms and gently laid her on the ground. Naruto bent down, placing his head on her chest to sigh in relief when he heard a strong heartbeat. His eyes were flashing red with black slits as he unintentionally pulled Kurama's power. He was pissed alright. In a flash of hand seals and a poof of smoke, Kagura was on the human realm. You summoned Naruto? Kagura asked but didn't wait for a reply when he saw the devastation around her and Naruto's mate on the ground. Kagura's tails immediately started glowing and scanning Hinata's body. She's lucky to have survived this blast, Kagura said, but Naruto didn't reply, he just looked at Hinata. She has a few broken ribs, internal bleeding and a concussion, most likely from the explosion and getting blasted towards this rock. Kagura explained and Naruto nodded, his eyes flashing silver. Naraka path, Naruto said, and the King of Hell appeared just a few inches away from him. The King of Hell's mouth glowed green as he sent a small beam of energy into Hinata's body. It only took a few seconds, Hinata's breathing stabilized and her scorched skin disappeared to her normal flawless skin. Naruto smiled as he noticed that she looked better and peaceful in her sleep. Then he remembered what happened here. His anger was rising as he quickly knew that happened here. Yagura had sent some of his shinobi to take out the medical camps. It was a lone move, but this was war, where any opportunity is to be taken. Yagura had destroyed the medical tents. Tents filled with sick and weak people, filled with doctors and nurses who had nothing to do with this war and only wanted to help save the few they could. People who had dedicated their lives into helping other people didn't deserve such fate. The place where the love of his life was working. He hurt his mate, and he was going to pay for everything he had done. Naruto was thinking on these lines as he was finishing restoring Hinata's body when the rest of the dragons, Mei, Chojuro, and Ao arrived. Mei looked sadly at the devastation and shook her head at the lengths Yagura would go to win this war. He would target a hospital filled with sick people only to get an edge on this pathetic and pointless war. Those who prey on the weak and helpless have no place in this world, Naruto said, and Mei took a step back when she heard the tone and felt the malice behind his voice. She looked at him and noticed the purple dragon unconscious on the ground. The mask was gone and was replaced with the beautiful face of Hyuga Hinata. Even Mei had to admit she was a goddess in human form. Mei smiled at the fondness and love that Naruto had of her, but quickly forgot that when she felt his anger. That can't be good, Red Kushina thought, looking at her son with worry. That deep and cold voice made her shiver as if a ghost had just walked by. Those ants dared to try and kill my Hinata, Naruto said darkly, and all of the dragons were looking at him with weary faces. Naruto was always an easygoing guy, friendly and highly protective of everyone he cared about. Naruto tended to avoid confrontations when he could. Although there was one golden rule: don't hurt anyone he cares for, much less Hinata. The dragons knew they had no chance of defeating Naruto, much less when he was pissed and fighting for real. I'll slaughter them, Naruto roared in absolute rage, with his chakra levels rapidly escalating. Mei looked alarmed and scared as she never saw Naruto in such state. She never saw him pissed and angry, and, judging by the levels of his chakra output, he was beyond pissed. She was sweating and Naruto wasn't even mad at her. Naruto, calm down, Yellow Minato said, trying to calm his son down. Minato flinched and took a step back when Naruto turned and faced him, locking eyes with him. His Manjikyu Sharingan was glowing and the aura he was releasing was so powerful and strong that the ground was cracking from the pressure. They dared to hurt my mate, Naruto said, chuckling to himself. Ao was gulping and taking a few steps away from that monster. Chojuro was shaking like a wild leaf. I will show them my power, the power of Senju Naruto. I'm going to show them what happens when you anger a god, Naruto said in dark voice, and in a flash of yellow he was gone. It took them all a few minutes to recover from what happened. What the hell happened to him? Mei asked, gulping as her breathing returned to normal. She was drop dead scared of Naruto right about now. She never knew he could be so cold and intimidating. Everyone has darkness, and that is what happens when you hurt Hinata, Red Kushina said as she bended over and picked up Hinata in her arms. Kushina was no medic, but even she could see that Hinata was back to perfect health. He got so angry. I've never seen something like that, Mei said, shivering. Naruto is highly protective of his girlfriend, Yellow stated. Don't you think that's a bit excessive? He managed to heal her back to full health, Mei explained, confused. Naruto's reaction was excessive. I understand why you would say something like that, and before I explain, let me ask you something. Red Kushina began. What do you know of Senju Naruto? What do you think he is? Red asked to Mei, who got into a thinking position. Senju Naruto, S-rank shinobi of Konoha, grandson of the Godame Hokage, Senju Tsunade, and the head of the Senju clan, Mei explained, and Kushina nodded, seeing that was the information contained in the bingo book. How do you think his life was growing up in the Leaf was? Red asked, and Mei was startled by such question but answered nonetheless. Like any other heir to a clan, I suppose. He was most likely treated like a king or royalty, even more for him being the heir of the Senju clan, one of the founding clans of Konoha and said to be the strongest of all. Mei explained, and Kushina gave a hollow chuckle. What if I told you that until 3 years ago Naruto was known as the Demon Brat? Kushina stated, and Mei's eyes widened since she understood that reference. Naruto's parents died a few minutes just after he was born. The Yondaime gave his life to seal the Kyuubi in him, making him a Jinchuriki. His life growing up was a nightmare and a hell. An orphan kid who was an outcast by the villagers, he was beaten and chased by them for being a demon, Kushina stated in a sad voice. He was a lonely boy without any friends, mistreated by the whole village, expelled from the orphanage when he was only 4 years old. forced to live in the wild for months until the Sandaime found him and gave him a house. But the house did nothing to appease his lonely heart. Kushina said, almost sobbing, until Yellow placed an hand over her shoulder to give her some comfort. How is he even sane? Mei asked in a low voice. She never knew that there was such past behind the cheerful attitude of Naruto. That is where Hyuga Hinata comes in. Kushina started in a livelier voice. She comes from the Hyuga clan, where her father deemed her too weak to be the heiress of such honored clan. She was disowned and expelled from the clan by her own father when she had only 8 years. She, like Naruto, was thrown away like garbage and forced to live on the streets. Kushina said. Luckily for both of them, they found each other. Red said, smiling. They lived on the same roof ever since then. They lived and trained to prove to others and each other that they aren't weak, or demons. Eventually love grew between them. Hinata was and is the anchor for Naruto. I fear to what lengths Naruto would go if something ever happened to her. Kushina said as Mei took him in a new light. So do you understand why Naruto's reaction was this extreme? From the moment he was born he had nothing. He finally gained something and he would die to protect it. Kushina explained, and Mei nodded knowingly. I've never experienced anything like that, so I can only imagine. Mei stated until she remembered what Naruto had said. We have to stop him. He's going after Yagura, isn't he? Mei asked, and every dragon nodded. He's going to kill himself. According to Han, Yagura mobilized the remaining of his army, the village. There still are around 2,000 shinobi and Yagura himself. Mei said in a panic, getting ready to leave. In the last few days she grew friendly with Naruto. No. Blue said in his monotone voice, placing a hand on her shoulder. It's better we stay out of the way unless we want to get caught in the crossfire. Blue said, but Mei wouldn't budge. Are you insane? Mei said, no one can face 2,000 shinobi alone and win, much less an army with their leader having full control over his bijou. Mei retorted. You no idea the extension of his power. Blue said, shocking Mei by his blind faith on his leader. By tomorrow, Kirigakure will be ours. Blue said and left Mei stunned in place. So we are just going to stand here and watch? Mei asked in a low voice. Unless you want to sacrifice your men then, yes? Blue said. We are moving close to the village once Naruto begins his attack. Blue explained, and Yellow nodded, flashing everyone to nearby the gates of Kirigakure. My God. Mei stuttered, looking at the village. Mizuki's Tower underground facility. You fool. A voice echoed through the whole room. The room itself was very large and had many supporting pillars to keep it from collapsing. From the stone color anyone could clearly tell that this room was deep underground. At the end of the room were 2 large metal doors that would most likely lead to another area. Back to the 2 people that were arguing. The person that yelled was standing and pacing around the room, pissed by his subordinate. He was wearing a high-collared black cloak with red clouds emblazoned in it. He had black spiky hair and was wearing an orange mask with a swirling pattern. He was Tobi, or Uchiha Fugaka for those few that knew him. The other person was kneeling in front of him, bowing her head in shame. She had long dark black hair that reached her waist with a small bang coming down her forehead and touching her nose. She was wearing black long-sleeved gloves that reached her elbows. She had a light black, high-collared jacket with mesh shirt underneath and black shorts. She was now Uchiha and was kneeling after a failed mission. A/N. Check profile for now's image. It was surprisingly hard to find a decent female Uchiha. You were told not to reveal yourself, and yet you did. Tobi yelled, making now cringe from the sound. And for what? Tobi rhetorically asked. So you could show the world that there is one more Uchiha alive and nearly getting killed in the process. Tobi roared. Flashback, die, now yelled, and Hinata crouched on the ground and started spinning. All of the explosive tags started sizzling, getting ready to detonate. Now saw Hinata crouching, knowing very well that she was trying to pull a Kaiten to survive the blast. Now closed her eyes and relaxed. The moment she heard one of the tags go off, she focused and channeled chakra into her left eye. She opened her left eyes and it proudly displayed her Sharingan glowing in all its power. So the outcome comes to this. Izanagi, now whispered as her Sharingan glowed and the medical tents exploded in flames. Now shimmered out of existence, only to reappear a few yards away, crouching on the ground, taking deep breaths. She had sacrificed her left eye to survive the blast, and, while her body was new once again, her chakra reserves were almost depleted. There she is, now said, chuckling to herself as she found Hinata fighting off unconsciousness near a rock. Now picked up the remaining shurikens she had and hurled them towards the defenseless Hinata. now smiled as the kunais made their way towards Hinata only to be blocked by Naruto. Damn it, now said and focused her chakra shun shining away. Now had barely came out on top of that fight and had to sacrifice Ai to survive. She could never take on Naruto at this point, and flashback. My deepest apologies, Tobi. Now said, but a glare from Tobi set her straight. I mean, Fugaku-sama. Now quickly corrected herself not to disrespect her leader. It was a simple demolition mission which requires stealth and finesse to achieve the goal. Clearly I chose the wrong person to do it. I would have thought that as the second in command for the Uchiha clan you would have more caution. Fugaku stated, looking at her, all the while now kept her head down. She wanted to say no when Fugaku gave her this mission. Now didn't feel right killing injured people. Now was a warrior of the Uchiha clan, and she felt that every life she took it had to be in combat with her winning, but she was an Uchiha and her loyalty was to her leader. And now look at you, you blew the mission so you could fight a Hyuga, Fugaku said, shaking his head. And you lost. The only reason you would have won was because she got injured in the explosion and you sacrificed an eye, Fugaku said, sighing. How was I supposed to know that I was fighting Hyuga Hinata and once the fight started I couldn't leave her alive? Now replied, looking at Fugaku. Her right eye was the normal black, but her left one was completely different. It was now a hollowed white, meaning it was a dead, blind eye. A sacrifice for using the Uchiha's Kenjutsu and changing reality. And look how good that went, Fugaku sarcastically replied. You lost an eye and yet, the Hyuga still lives. Fugaku countered and now bit her lip. With your sister dead, you possess the only eternal in the whole clan, as only a few others have the Manjikyu, Fugaku said, and now looked down sadly. The funny thing about an Uchiha is that they can't live without their eyes. If you remove them, the Uchiha dies shortly. And that happened to Nao's sister, as Nao's eyes didn't accept her sister. When they found out, it was too late. You know that you can have Nagato heal me with his Rinnegan. Nao tried to counter, but Fugaku was adamant in making sure she understood her mistake. Nagato is dying. The Rinnegan is too powerful for his body. Every time he uses it, his body grows weaker and weaker. He won't last much longer, Fugaku sadly said. The Rinnegan isn't some ordinary Jujutsu. Even with the Uzumaki vitality, those eyes are too powerful for him to wield, Fugaku stated, releasing a deep breath. There isn't many people who could even think of wielding such Jujutsu without any drawbacks. Only someone who has both Uchiha and Senju blood can wield it to their full power, Fugaku explained. If you place those eyes on any Uchiha, they would die the moment they use them. Due to their bodies, the Senju and Uzumaki can wield them, but that is only partially and temporarily, until their body succumbs. And there aren't that many Senjus left around, Fugaku said, and now sighed. You could use them without any drawbacks, as Madara-sama gave you Senju DNA to strengthen your body, Nao stated, getting a tick mark from Fugaku. Nagato still has plenty of uses. I'll have him restore your eyesight. The Akatsuki is beginning to make their move, and soon the Uchiha clan will rule the world, Fugaku stated, and now got up to leave when a new figure entered the room. The figure wore dark blue pants with a blue cloth hanging from halfway up his stomach to his knees. He also wore black arm guards that covered his forearms and stretched up to reach his upper biceps. He also wore a purple rope belt around his waist, tied in a bow, in which he carries his sword. He was Uchiha Sasuke. So Hinata kicked your ass, Sasuke mockingly said with his Sharingan glowing. HN now replied, walking past him but not without giving her reply. If I remember correctly, you lost to the dead last of the academy several times, now retorted, smirking while Sasuke scowled. He was about to comment when a massive earthquake was felt. Fugaku, Sasuke and Nao stumbled as they tried to keep their ground. A few specks of dust fell from the ceiling due to the size of the earthquake. This chakra, Nao said with her eyes widening. Who could possess such presence? Nao fearfully asked. Fugaku was also curious about this massive chakra signature that he suddenly felt within the village. Fugaku focused as he felt his chakra and cursed his luck. That would be the pissed-off Senju whose girlfriend you tried to kill a few minutes ago, Fugaku stated. So the dobe shows himself, Sasuke said, and was about to leave and go fight him when Fugaku grabbed him by the arm. He's on a different level than you, patience Sasuke, Fugaku said, and Sasuke unwillingly agreed, leaving the room. Looks like my pet's hour has come to an end. I can't reveal the Uchihas just yet, Fugaku thought to himself, making his way to the roof to observe just how much Naruto had grown. He was such an obedient pet, such shame, Fugaku sadly thought. Gather the clan, Fugaku said towards Nao, who nodded. We are moving out of Kirigakure, Fugaku said as he left the room. Few minutes earlier, Kirigakure's main gates. It was a calm and silent night in the village of Kirigakure. At least that is what it appeared to be, because if you looked deeper, you could feel a tense atmosphere with several shinobi running around. After all, they were at war, and Yagura had mobilized the remaining army to defend the village against the next assault, which would be in the next few days. It was a full moon and a cloudless night. The moon was shining high in the sky, illuminating the whole village. The shinobi were running around like headless chickens. They had so much to do and so little time. Guards were posted at the gates and walls to check for any sign of an attack. Armories and blacksmiths were working non-stop to produce weapons and armor for the shinobi to use. Man, I hope those monsters attack soon so that Yagura-sama can wipe them out and get this over with. One of the guards stated to his companion, who seemed bored as well. Apparently no one liked doing guard duty. After all, you just sit there looking out for threats and stamp papers all day. Couldn't agree more. The other guard replied, yawning. The guard stretched and opened his eyes, getting up, when he saw a small flare on the distance. What is that? The guard asked, looking at the distance. There was a small flare on the distance. It looked like a small campfire or something similar. What? The other guard asked as his companion's eyes widened. That. The guard yelled, as he jumped off, when the small beacon on the distance was quickly approaching. The other guard didn't even have time to blink as the small beacon became a gigantic wall of white-hot flames. The walls and gates were engulfed by the flames with such intensity that even rocks started melting. Raise the Alardash. The surviving guard yelled, but that was cut off by a sword through his chest. The last thing the guard saw was a pair of deep blood-red eyes. I'll show them the despair the bloodline's users felt, Naruto said as he blurred towards the village with his sword at hand. Naruto was running through the village when the shinobi started gathering up in front of him. In just a few seconds, the whole army was standing in front of him, with Naruto looking at them impassively, his yellow hair flowing in the wind. Truly amazing, Yagura said as he watched the battle from the top of the Mizukage Tower. 2,000 shinobi stand in front of you and you don't even blink, Yagura said, astonished. When I'm done with them, Naruto said, pointing his sword towards the army. I'm coming for your head, Yagura, Naruto stated, and the army started laughing. Do you really think you can get past us? One of the shinobi said, while other laughed. I'm not getting past you. When I'm done slaughtering every one of you, I'll be going for Yagura, Naruto stated, and the shinobi quickly shut up. Let me show you the power of a god, Naruto stated, and began unleashing his silver chakra that seemed to complement the moon in the sky. His hair began to flap wildly and the ground began to crack as his aura skyrocketed. The shinobi army decided that enough was enough and rushed Naruto. Suddenly the whole village felt his chakra and anger and buckled to his power. A few shinobi stumbled as they ran once they felt his true power. They were gasping for air and dropping to their knees as Naruto unleashed his chakra. Katon Goka Mekyaku, Great Fire Annihilation, Naruto said, forming the horse hand seal and pumping his lungs with chakra. A colossal wall of flames erupted from his mouth and rocketed towards the shinobi army, scorching the ground and destroying everything in its path. The shinobi army's eyes widened at the sheer magnitude of the jutsu. Water users quickly rushed to the front lines to try and mount some kind of defense. Suetun Sujin Hiki, Water Wall. Dozens of shinobi shouted, releasing water from their mouths to stop the onslaught of the flames. The water collided with the fire, and it was enough to stop it in its tracks. Once the clash was over, a big steam cloud washed over the battlefield from the jutsu clash. Naruto smiled as his sword sparkled with electricity, and he rushed head-on against an army of 2,000. There was no other word for it unless slaughter. These weak shinobi posed no threat against Naruto. Naruto ducked under one punch and kicked another shinobi, blasting him away from the power of the strike. Left and right, shinobi were getting tossed aside like rag dolls. There was no stopping him. They could barely track Naruto, and once they got close to him it would be over. The fact that it was night coupled with the steam cloud made it worse for the shinobi who were dropping like flies. Futon de Tapa, Great Breakthrough. A shinobi shouted and sent a gust of wind that sent Naruto flying back, but he quickly flipped mid-air and landed gracefully on the ground. Naruto's eyes glowed as he made a single tiger hand seal. Entengoku Mekyaku, Inferno-style Great Fire Annihilation, Naruto said, and instead of the usual white-hot flames, pitch-black ones came from his mouth. But unlike the other ones, there was no stopping this attack. Blocking this attack wasn't an option, as the army soon discovered when the black wave clashed with a water shield and easily evaporated it. Black flames spread through the battlefield, decimating a chunk of the army as the other scrambled. The army watched in fear as the black flames descended upon them. They ran out of the way, but a small contact, and it was all over. They screamed and rolled on the ground, trying to put out the black flames. Once the unlucky ones have been dealt with, the army retook their positions, all the while watching the black flames burning on the side. Now they understood who they angered and who they were facing. The heated air went to the sky and started forming clouds, and rain started to fall. Soon enough thunders could be heard, illuminating the whole sky with their power. Due to the clouds and being night, darkness covered the whole village. The only light they had was that of a few fires created from the destruction and lightning bolts in the sky. 300 down. Naruto started as his eyes glowed once again. 1700 to go, Naruto said as he was surrounded by a silver aura. The aura started expanding and forming a shield around Naruto. It was the beginning stage of the Susanoo. A single ribcage form stood around Naruto as it began to grow and grow. Soon the ribcage started growing out and getting covered by a small layer. "What monster is he?" a fearful shinobi asked as he looked towards the monster figure that surrounded Naruto. He was some kind of silver ethereal humanoid with black teeth. The humanoid's hands glowed and a weapon appeared in each of his hands. The Susanoo's hands glowed and chakra expanded outwards, forming some kind of sword. At the end of the sword it was a long curved blade. Those were scythes, the weapon that Naruto's Susanoo decided to show. Some say that the Susanoo's weapons are the ones the user is truly meant to wield during his lifetime, but Naruto had a suspicion it had something to do with the deal he made with the Shinigami. After all, if Naruto wanted, any enemy slain by those swords would be sealed in the death god's stomach for all eternity. Flashback training trip: snake, boar, ram, rabbit, dog, rat, bird, horse, snake, clap hands. Shiki, Fujin, Reaper, death seal, Naruto said as the air suddenly became colder. Jiraiya, Hinata and Gaara shivered when they felt the Shinigami's presence shimmer behind Naruto. Behind Naruto a white spectral image formed almost instantly. The figure had purple-colored skin with large white robes. He had 2 red horns and 2 fangs with black teeth. He had long white spiky hair and on his mouth a large knife. On his hands he had a chain of red beads. "What did you summon me for, mortal?" the death god asked, annoyed. His voice was like ice. It seemed that yet again, another human had dared to summon him to his biting. "I have a proposition for you, Shinigami-sama," Naruto said, but the Shinigami didn't look pleased. "I don't deal with mortals. So if this is what you summoned me for, I'll take your soul," the Shinigami said and extended his arm towards Naruto's chest, who remained in place. Shinigami's hands grasped Naruto's soul tightly and pulled, and pulled. Shinigami's eyes widened when he couldn't remove his soul. "I'm no ordinary mortal," Naruto said with his Rinnegan blazing, staring the death god in the face. "You dare defy me, human, I'll have your soul destroyed." The Shinigami roared and Hinata, Jiraiya and Gaara just scrambled away from his fury. Jiraiya just watched how Naruto stood in front of Death God himself, fearless. "You and I both know that destroying a soul is impossible. They are like the bijus. They are made of pure energy, and that can't be destroyed, only sealed away," Naruto stated, much to the anger of the Shinigami. "How about you hear my offer?" Naruto asked, and the Shinigami unwillingly accepted. "What can you offer me, mortal?" the Shinigami asked, intrigued by this human. Even though he possessed the eyes of the gods, he should be able to remove his soul without even trying. "A way to stop mortals from summoning you," Naruto said, and the Shinigami grew curious. "Speak," the Shinigami said and motioned for Naruto to go on. "Currently there are 3 people alive that can summon you. In exchange for allowing me to take the single soul you possess, and me alone the ability to summon you, I will make sure no one ever learns how to summon you, and I will destroy the Uzumaki clan's Death Reaper mask," Naruto stated. "I see," the Shinigami replied in thought. This mortal did raise some good points. In a simple exchange of giving him the single soul he possessed, he could refrain from humans ever summoning him again, with the exception of this mortal. "We have a deal. Once the mask is destroyed, summon me and I will allow you to take the soul I have." The Shinigami and Naruto smiled and bowed his head. "However, betray me and make sure your soul will never enter the pure world," the Shinigami said and left. "Now to destroy this mask once and for all," Naruto said, and with a glance, the mask erupted in black flames until it was nothing more than ashes flying in the wind. End flashback. The Kirigakure army was looking at the monstrosity in front of them. With the silver color and those scythes, every single shinobi felt as if they were staring at death himself that came down to judge them all. Every single shinobi felt a shiver crawl up their spine as Naruto's chakra spiked, and he began his onslaught. Katan, Gakkaku no Jutsu, Great Fireball Technique, Suiton Suryuden no Jutsu, Water Dragon, Suiton Daibakufu no Jutsu, Waterfall Vortex. The Kirigakure shinobi threw jutsu after jutsu at Naruto in an effort of stopping him, but they couldn't. There was no stopping his Susanoo. That was his ultimate defense, and his greatest weapon. With a single stroke of his scythes, the ground cracked and dozens of shinobi were blasted back and killed. From inside the Susanoo, Naruto felt the usage of demon chakra. He looked up to see Yagura in his version 2 cloak charging up. Bijudama, Tailed Beast Ball, Yagura said and sent a Bija-powered beast ball towards Naruto in an effort to vanquish him for good. Naruto smiled as the ball approached and swinged his scythe. With a single stroke, the tailed beast ball was split in half and detonated prematurely. The ball exploded just before it hit Naruto's Susanoo, causing further deaths in Yagura's army. So the turtle came out to play, Naruto said as he watched Yagura fully transform into his full beast. Yagura had completely transformed into his Biju, the Sanbai, and stood behind his army backing them up. Ready, Kurama? Naruto asked his own Biju, who smirked in return. Kuchios no Jutsu, Kyubi no Yoko, Summoning Technique, Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, Naruto said, slamming his hand on the ground. There was a large poof of smoke and a big shock wave that blasted most of the shinobi back. Once the smoke cleared, the Kyubi was standing there, his 9 tails swinging in all of their glory, with Naruto on top on his head. R-O-A-R-R-R-R, the Kyubi roared and the ground shook from the shockwave. His 9 tails were swinging wildly. Everyone in the village could feel the oppressive and powerful chakra oozing from the Kyubi. Standing in front of the Kirigakure army was the Kyubi, the most powerful of the 9 Biju. Suddenly the Kyubi laughed, a laugh that echoed through the village. A creepy, dark and disembodied laugh that breathed fear even into the strongest of men. "We are all doomed," one shinobi said as he fell to his knees at the face of the enormous fox standing in front of them. "Take care of the turtle while I finish up here. Lead him away from the village," Naruto said, and Kurama nodded, jumping towards the Sanbai. With Mei and the others. "My God," Mei stuttered, looking at the village. There were small fires everywhere, but what stood out was the towering 9-tailed fox in the middle of the village with Naruto standing on top of his head. "If those two face off, there won't be a village left when they are done," Mei said as she looked towards the fox getting ready to jump at the turtle. "Don't worry," Yellow said to appease her worries. "Naruto would never destroy your village. If you watch closely, you would see that the destruction is minimal," Yellow explained, but Mei frowned. "What about those 2 Bijus?" Mei asked. "Look carefully," Yellow said, chuckling. Mei watched as the fox suddenly pounced on the turtle. Kurama picked the turtle by his tails and threw her away from the village. "You see," Yellow said, and Mei sighed in relief that she would have a village when this was over. "How can he be so powerful? It's insane. He's beyond Kage level," Mei stated as she watched as a single man took down 2,000 shinobi and defeated a Biju. "I don't know, he just is," Yellow answered truthfully. "With Tobi, that is a problem," Tobi said, looking at the Kyubi. "If he can summon the Kyubi to the outside and still be able to fight, then the standard duo team of the Akatsuki won't be enough to take him down," Tobi mused in thought. "And he has great control over his Susanoo," Tobi stated, looking at the ethereal warrior. Back to Naruto. Naruto watched as Kurama battled with the turtle. Even he had to admit that the Sanbai had one hard shell. The Sanbai took a Bijudama and came out slightly smoking. Naruto smirked as Kurama taunted the damn turtle every single time he could. "I guess he didn't get off in a while," Naruto thought. "You bet, it feels good to stretch my legs for real," Kurama replied through their mental link. Naruto chuckled and turned to end his job. There still were about 1,000 shinobi remaining. Naruto focused chakra into his eyes and another pair of arms grew on his Susanoo. Both Naruto and the 4 Susanoo's arms made 3 hand seals simultaneously. Ram plus snake plus bird. "Tenai Shinsei, shattered heaven," Naruto said as the sky began to darken even more. A shroud of darkness covered the whole village and many shinobi looked up only to see a large meteorite block their view of the moon and sky. "What the hell is this?" one shinobi asked, dropping the sword and looking at the rock coming down from the sky. "Is this really ninjutsu?" another asked as they all began to retreat away, trying to get clear of the blast radius. Bijudama, tailed beast ball. Naruto heard and looked to the left to see a big-tailed beast ball heading towards the meteorite. The meteorite exploded into thousands of smaller stones that rained down on the village. You are a fool, Yagura, Naruto said before flashing through hand seals. Meteorite shower, Naruto said as he unleashed multiple fireballs that crashed into the falling stones. The stones became covered in flames as they lit the sky in what could only be described in inferno. These big balls of flames were crashing everywhere. The shinobi used water jutsu and rose earth shields, but to no avail. And to finish, Naruto said as he dropped his Susanoo, and his eyes shifted to his Rinnegan. Naruto suddenly started levitating and flying high into the air. Naruto dodged a few meteorites that had yet to crash and rose high up air, almost touching the clouds. The sky sparkled as the thunder seemed to intensify, but Naruto seemed unaffected even though he was in the midst of it. Naruto's body sparkled with electricity, and the thunders merged together to form a new big blue dragon. Naruto's whole body was covered in blue lightning as the dragon exited the clouds and circled Naruto. With a single movement of hand, the dragon stopped and Naruto dropped down on his head, still high in sky. Raitun Raijin no Ken, Fist of the Thunder God. 1. Naruto said and dragon roared. Naruto rode the dragon into the ground and, in flash of white and blue, it exploded with such force that the whole village shook. The ground was covered in blue dome of chakra sparkling. Even the Kyuubi and the Sanbai braced themselves so they didn't get blasted away with the shockwave. Once the smoke had cleared and the blue chakra disappeared, the only thing remaining in the middle of the crater was Naruto, completely fine and without a hair out of place. Naruto looked around and saw that the army was devastated. There were 2, maybe 300 survivors here and there. That is what you get for attacking in numbers. Usually numbers mean victory, but not when the enemy can use large-scale jutsus and wipe them out in a fraction of a second. Namake's Minato had done the same during the Third World War, and now, Senju Naruto had just started his own legend by decimating an army of 2,000. PP please, the shinobi said, backing away and stumbling to the ground, falling on his butt. No more, we ask to surrender, the shinobi said while the others did the same and bowed to Naruto in sign of defeat. Naruto didn't spare them a glance as he looked towards the Kyuubi and the Sanbai. There was only one target left. Yagura. With Mei and the others. It's over, Blue said while Mei, Ao, Chojuro and her rebel army stared in shock. A single shinobi had decimated 2,000 trained shinobi in under a few minutes. Remind me to never piss him off, Ao muttered under his breath while Chojuro was on the ground drooling. Thank God we will be allied to the leaf, Mei thought with her eyes bulging out of her skull. He was truly a god. Just what kind monster did Namake's Minato and Uzumaki Kushina had? To think he conquered a village without even truly using his Rinnegan. Green thought as he looked at the devastation. There weren't many bodies left as the Amaterasu flames, coupled with the last Raitun jutsu, disintegrated everything. Send word to the army. We are occupying the village, Yellow said, and Mei nodded, ordering her army to take control of the village. Naruto had been careful to only use those devastating jutsus on the main clearing of village, leaving the buildings mostly intact. Naruto could feel life force inside, and those were probably civilians, and while he was pissed, he wouldn't target civilians who had nothing to do with this. With Tobi watched the outcome of the battle with a single bead of sweat rolling down his head. He should never allow Naruto to grow this much, and now, he knew that he was going to be trouble. And a lot of it. And for someone who had a god under his belt, he felt a very human chill crawling up his spine. This won't end well, Tobi thought as he warped away from the village and into his new hideout. Naruto and Kyuubi vs Yagura and Sanbai. Naruto arrived to see Kurama and Sanbai face off. Kurama was faster and more agile than the Sanbai. Though on the other hand, the Sanbai was built as a tank, made to last and endure any type of an attack. If the tailed beast ball she took head on a few minutes ago was anything to go by, her shell was very strong and sturdy. Yagura, is that you in there? Naruto asked as the giant turtle in front of him as he jumped on top of Kurama's head. You will pay for this, you insolent brat, a pissed Yagura replied. He had just lost the war. This kid in front of him had decimated his army and conquered his city. If he couldn't win this war, he would at least take the brat with him. The Sanbai charged forward and coiled herself. The Sanbai started spinning and rolling all over the battlefield. Kurama dodged aside to avoid getting hit head-on and watched as the Sanbai changed paths and blurred towards him once again. Naruto sat down on the Kyuubi's head and started gathering natural energy while Kurama kept the Sanbai busy. A few minutes later, Naruto opened his eyes to show several red marks spread around his face. Naruto gained red pigment markings around and under his eyes, as well two concentric red circles in the middle of his forehead. His manjiku was still the blood red but was glowing unnaturally. These were the markings of a sage. Naruto extended his right arm and chakra started gathering on the palm of his hand. A familiar swirl was heard as a Rasengan was being born in his hand. The ball started taking a silvery color like his chakra and a deafening sound was starting to come out. Suddenly the Rasengan expanded, forming 4 large points around the central sphere, taking the appearance of a Fuma Shuriken. Futon Rasen Shuriken, Naruto said and hurled the new Rasengan towards Yagura. The sphere sliced through the air and before Yagura could react, the Rasengan hit the Sanbai right in the head. The Sanbai was pushed back and rose into the air. A towering dome, 50 feet in diameter, appeared around him as thousands of wind blades sliced through her shell like a hot knife through butter. When it was over, the Sanbai collapsed to the ground. Golden chains burst from the ground and ensnared the Sanbai's tails, paws, head and whole body, pinning her to the ground. The Sanbai squirmed under the chains, but it was no avail. Even Kurama had trouble with those chains. Red Ox Dog Boar. Naruto went through the hand signs and clapped his hands together. He slammed his right hand on the ground and kanji started flowing out of it and going towards the Sanbai, forming a ring around him. 5-point demonic suppression seal, Naruto said, and the kanji started glowing. Yagura yelled in pain as his tenant's chakra was being forced back into the seal. This was the same seal Naruto had sued against the Ichibi during the sand/sound invasion. This seal works like the 5-pronged seal but on a much larger scale. This seal suppresses the Biju's chakra, forcing it back into the seal. The Sanbai coiled itself in a large dome of water. In just a few seconds all the water disappeared and Yagura fell to the ground. Naruto jumped down from Kurama's head and approached Yagura, who was lying on the ground. Suetun Swishuha, exploding water wave, Yagura shouted, and Naruto's eyes widened when a gigantic water wave rose from the ground. Yagura was panting at the top of the wave as he commanded her to crash into Naruto. Naruto used his Kamui and left the water hit the ground. Once the wave had calmed down, Naruto jumped on top of the water looking at Yagura. "You are still alive," Naruto said, looking towards Yagura. He was slightly bent over, taking deep breaths. "It's over, Yagura. Your reign of tyranny and oppression has come to an end," Naruto said, closing the distance between them. "Something is wrong," Naruto whispered to himself, observing Yagura intently. His chakra network was off, very off. His chakra seemed to be all over the place, like he had some genjutsu affecting him. Could it be? Naruto thought to himself as he approached Yagura and placed 2 fingers on his forehead. "Kai, release!" Naruto shouted as he infused some of his chakra into Yagura's network to disrupt and restart his chakra flow. Yagura blinked and noticed the blonde in front of him. Who are you?" Yagura asked to Naruto, whose eyes widened. "Oh shit," Naruto thought, since he was right. Suddenly his eyes became silver as his Rinnegan flared to life. Naruto placed a hand on top of his head. "Human path," Naruto said and started reading Soul. Naruto was rummaging through his memories when a certain orange-masked individual appeared in them. Tobi, Naruto thought angrily. It was all his fault. Tobi had used the Sanbai as medium to manipulate Yagura. He was just another innocent in all of this. What?" Yagura said, dropping to his knees and looking at his shaking hands. "What have I done?" Yagura asked himself, and Naruto knew that look all too well. Regret, and a lot of it. Naruto turned to Kurama when the ground suddenly shook. Naruto quickly turned back to Yagura to had a small smile on his face and a hand on his stomach. Time seemed to slow down as Yagura spoke. "Thank you for setting me free. Take care of Kiri for me," Yagura said just before his body exploded and bright light rose to the skies. The light expanded and started reforming in the air. 3 trails suddenly sprouted from the energy. The energy started condensing, gaining a light blue tone and several spikes. The Sanbai was reforming. He took his own life by fully releasing the Sanbai, Naruto sadly thought. Tobi had wrecked yet another village and countless lives. And all for what? Can you blame him? Kurama rhetorically asked. When he became aware of everything he had done, he couldn't live with it. Kurama said, and Naruto nodded, looking at the Sanbai nearly finished reforming. I'll make sure he's remembered for who he truly was, Naruto thought to himself as the Sanbai landed on the ground. Naruto looked up as the Sanbai looked down. Suddenly and out of nowhere one of the sandbys came down and crushed Naruto into the ground. I didn't think you would associate with humans, Kurama, the sandby said towards his brother. That wasn't very nice, Aisabu, Naruto said as he started levitating until he was at eye level with the sandby. Those eyes, Aisabu said in shock. This human had the Rinnegan, his father's eyes. You see, he's not an ordinary human, Kurama replied, chuckling. Why did you try to kill me, Aisabu? Naruto asked, curious. After all, Naruto was the cause of his release. I know all of you humans. You a bunch of power-hungry fools, and I didn't intend to be sealed again, Aisabu replied, and Naruto nodded. What if I told that I never intended to seal you? Naruto rhetorically asked towards a surprised sandby. In fact, I have a proposition for you, Naruto said. Really? Aisabu asked with caution, as humans weren't to be trusted. What do you have in mind? Aisabu asked, curious. Yagura's last wish was for me to take care of Kiri. I can't do that since I have Konoha to look out for. I want you to protect this village, but this time, instead of you being a weapon sealed inside some human, I want you to be a guardian, Naruto said towards the surprised sandby, who looked interested and surprised by this human. This is your natural habit, Naruto said, gesturing to all the water around the islands. I just want you to be free and, while at it, defend this village. I promise that no one from this village will ever try and seal you again, Naruto explained and waited for Aisabu's answer. You amuse me, human. I shall accept your proposition. As long as this village and their shinobi don't disturb, I shall do my best to keep them safe, Aisabu replied, which made Naruto smile. That is all I ask, Aisabu, Naruto replied and turned to Kurama. You can stay and catch up. Tell him about the Akatsuki and such. I'll see you later, Naruto said and swirled away. Truly an interesting human, Aisabu said, amused, and turned to Kurama. Do you think he's the one? Aisabu asked. I have no doubt, Kurama replied with a smirk. Chapter 41, the Fifth Mizukage. 1 week after Yagura's death. The land of water was happy. The news of Yagura's death at the hands of Senju Naruto spread through the whole country like a wildfire. News that a single shinobi conquered the Mist Village and defeated their leader was the talk of the whole country. A single man had laid siege to the Mist Village and took down 2,000 shinobi and their leader, Yagura, Jinchuriki of the Sandbai, the three-tailed turtle. Stories of how Naruto rose into the sky and controlled the thunders, how he made large meteorites rain down from sky, how he created waves of black fire and summoned the Kyuubi himself to help. Senju Naruto, Shinobi no Kami, god of the shinobi, as he was being called now, his legend had just started. Years of this war had left the water country weak and isolated from the other nations. A few bloodline users that never took part on the war were finally making their way back to the village since they had no other place to live. The Mist Village was weak, but they would recover in time. The daimyo was also replaced with a more competent one. Flashback: Water Daimyo's estate. It was the following day after Naruto had conquered the Mist Village. After the bloodline army had settled in and everything was taken care of, there was only one thing left to end this pathetic war. A coup d'etat against the water daimyo who funded this war. The dragons and Mei were standing outside of the daimyo's estate. It was night and everyone was on edge. If this worked, then the war would truly be over. In with the new, out with the old. The water daimyo had gone along with this war and even supported and funded Yagura. His unfair reign had to come to an end. How do you want to do this? Naruto asked Mei, who brought her hand to her chin. Mei turned to look at Naruto to see his blood-red eyes glowing in the dark. She still couldn't believe that Naruto was this powerful. Poor Chojuro fainted when Naruto had regrouped with them after defeating Yagura. Naruto had conquered the Mist Village, and in the end he wasn't even tired. He didn't have a hair out of place or a scratch in his amour. I'm done playing games with him, Mei stated in a serious voice. We are taking the front door, Mei said, and jumped out of the shadows. The moment she touched the ground, Mei blurred and the two guards guarding the main gate dropped to the floor unconscious. Works for me, Naruto said, and, with a slight wave of hand, ordered the dragons to advance. Yotan, Yokai no Jutsu, lava release, melting apparition technique, Mei said, and released a wave of lava from her mouth. The lava covered the gate and started melting it. A few seconds, the once rock-hardened gate was nothing more than melted something on the ground. The alarm echoed through the whole estate as several shinobi dropped from the main tower to defend their leader. Several samurais also stepped outside from the ground houses and surrounded the individuals. The samurais took out the swords and grasped them strongly when they recognized just what they were up against. "I am here for you, daimyo!" Mei yelled loudly from the ground. She enhanced her voice with chakra to make sure he would hear her. Everyone waited patiently until the wooden door bursted open and the daimyo stepped out into the balcony, high up in the daimyo's tower. He must have tough, he was safe up there. He even had his traditional blue hat on. "You dare to attack me!" The daimyo roared from his tower. He was pleased that the war had ended, but he didn't count on being attacked by the same person that won the war. "You have the nerve of saying that to us after what you have done!" Mei hissed towards the daimyo. "You supported and funded Yagura into this war, and for what?" Mei asked, narrowing her eyes at the leader of her country. "You are supposed to lead this country into betterment, not death," Mei stated, releasing killer intent. "The Mizukage is in charge of his village. It's his job to ensure the safety of his village and country. If he says that we need to eliminate these bloodline scum, then so be it." The water daimyo sneered at Mei, who tightened her fist, almost drawing out blood. "They were innocent people," Mei yelled. How could he say such thing? He was sheltered in this mansion. He had servants for everything. It were these so-called monsters that kept his country safe and stable. It were these monsters that fought for the safety and betterment of this country. "You ungrateful bastard!" Mei roared and turned to the shinobi standing in front of her. "Stand down," Mei ordered towards the shinobi. After all, they were Miss Shinobi and, as such, they were under her command and her command only. Not even the water daimyo had the authority to order shinobi around. That right belonged to the kage and the kage alone. "They won't listen to you, you are not the Mizukage," the daimyo happily stated. "And even if you were, they answer to me and me alone," the daimyo said. "I am Mei Terumi, the 5th Mizukage," Mei stated loud and clear with enough authority in her voice to make sure she got her pointer across. "I order you to stand down," Mei ordered. "You will not," the daimyo ordered, and the shinobi found themselves in a pickle. "Kill her," the daimyo ordered, and the shinobi and samurai were about to jump into action when another voice interrupted them. "You are welcome to try," Naruto said in a stoic voice as he made his presence known, stepping out of the shadows. Every single shinobi took a step back, noticing the presence of the man that single-handedly defeated Yagura and conquered the Mist Village. Every shinobi gulped. After all, standing in front of them was Senjin Naruto, god of all shinobi. "You," daimyo hissed towards Naruto, who simply raised an eyebrow at his tone. Naruto raised his head to face the daimyo with an bored tone. "I've got a bone to pick with the fire daimyo. How dare he allow Konoha to interfere in another country's affairs?" the daimyo said. The water daimyo yet seemed to realize in what situation he was in. The state of this country was pathetic. You allowed some deranged fool to start a war, and you didn't have the balls to stand up to him. Naruto making the water daimyo seethe while Mei chuckled at Naruto's boldness. You just hide behind these walls, in your safe haven, and you allowed innocent people to be slaughtered. This is why I dislike political leaders. You simply order the shinobi around, a kage leads them into battle. A true leader must be willing to die for his own men. Naruto stated with a neutral voice, crossing his arms over his chest. "Enough," the water daimyo said. "Kill them all," the daimyo ordered, extending his arm and pointing towards Naruto. Naruto didn't even open his eyes for a few seconds, and when he did, the view didn't exactly surprise him. Every single shinobi and samurai was rooted in place. "I said, kill them," the daimyo roared, but the shinobi didn't move. Maybe they were scared of facing both Mei and Naruto, or maybe they were having second thoughts about everything they learned here. "Drop your weapons and let us finish this," Mei said. A few shinobi recoiled from her request. They shared looks between each other until they dropped their kunais and swords. Once they were disarmed, they dropped to their knees. "Cowards!" the daimyo yelled towards his forces. "No, daimyo-sama," Mei said in a sweet voice, maybe too sweet. "They are warriors and my alone," Mei said, and made her way towards the door while the shinobi and samurai did nothing to stop her. The dragons and Naruto secured the perimeter and made sure that the daimyo would not escape. With a final scream from the daimyo, the war was truly over. End flashback. Once the daimyo had been dealt with, a new worthy replacement was found and everything started calming down. The new daimyo started working on getting new trading agreements with other nations, trying to bring Kiri from this dark hole that it lived for so many years. The Mist Village was bursting with activity. The damage from Naruto's siege had been minimal, and, as such, The buildings only needed minimal repairs here and there. There was a different ambient around Kiri. Where once people lived oppressed and scared of their tyrannical leader, now they were smiling and laughing. It was an unnaturally sunny day in Kiri. Maybe it was the outcome of Naruto using his new and improved lighting jutsu by drawing energy straight from the atmosphere. Naruto was walking down the village with his beautiful girlfriend on his arm. The armor was long gone and was replaced by civilian clothes. Naruto was wearing black pants and a dark blue shirt. Over that he was wearing a red trench coat with black flames on the bottom. On the back of his trench coat, the Senju clan symbol was proudly displayed in black color as well. Looking at his side, he couldn't but gawp at what Hinata had picked. She was wearing what she had called a gala dress or something. It was all confusing to Naruto, but he didn't seem to complain much. It was dark blue long dress that showed a little bit of her cleavage. Her dark blue hair flowing in the wind. They were walking towards the Mizukage Tower where there was a small party, if you could call it that, to celebrate the end of the war and the election of Mei Terumi as the new Mizukage. The choice of new leader had been swift, and with overwhelming majority. Minus then 5% of the Mist Village disagreed of Mei Terumi being chosen as the new Mizukage. Naruto and Hinata smiled and replied at the people that greeted them on their walk. Naruto and his dragons had become somewhat famous over the duration of their stay. Kiri no Hachinin no Ayu, the 8 heroes of Kiri as they were being called, Mei tried her best to uncover what lied being the masks but hit dead ends every time. At least she knew of Naruto and Hinata. Mei had made them honorary members of her village, and said they were welcome to visit any time they wished. Both of them arrived at the Mizukage Tower to see a large red carpet on the ground. The other dragons were already there. It seemed a bit weird for the dragons to be wearing masks, but they had their identity to preserve. "You took your sweet time to arrive," Mei said with her hands on her hips. After all, the dragons were the guests of honor on this small event. "Sorry about that," Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head. "Me and Hinata-chan took a little too much time getting ready," Naruto explained to Mei, who narrowed her eyes. "Surely you didn't want us to show up in our battle armor?" Naruto rhetorically asked, and Mei nodded, dragging them both inside. They ate and chatted happily as the afternoon got by. It was finally night, and the moon was shining high up in the sky. It was a cloudless night, so Naruto had a pretty good view of the stars and moon from the top of Mizukage Tower. Naruto sighed as he looked up at the starry sky. He was leaning on the metal fence, spinning a kunai on his hand. It's kind of funny that Naruto was wearing civilian clothes and yet, he still had a few weapons with him. "So this is where you were?" Naruto heard and turned around to see Hinata approaching. "Why have you been hiding up here?" Hinata asked as she joined Naruto by the metal fences, looking up at the sky. "No reason," Naruto lied as he sighed and focused on the sky once again. "Just trying to clear my mind," Naruto explained, and that didn't fool Hinata. "You have known each other and lived together for nearly 10 years. You really think you can hide something from me?" Hinata rhetorically asked, making Naruto chuckle. "I guess," Naruto replied and gathered his thoughts before answering. "It's just, I don't know, I feel guilty for killing everyone," Naruto said, sighing and looking up. They were innocent people and even Yagura had nothing to do with this. It was Tobi all along. He used Isabu as a medium to control him. Naruto explained, and Hinata's eyes widened as she never knew. "Naruto didn't tell anyone about Yagura being controlled. When I saw you there, lying there on the floor, I don't know. I felt as if something inside of me snapped," Naruto said, and Hinata just heard him, holding his hand firmly. "I knew I could bring you back even if you died, but just seeing you there on the ground unconscious and in pain, I got so angry that I didn't even think properly, and just rushed the village to kill Yagura," Naruto explained, sighing. "You went God Almighty on them, didn't you?" Hinata softly asked, and Naruto nodded. "You know me too well," Naruto said, giving a hollow chuckle. "I guess Itachi is right after all," Naruto said, and got a confused look from Hinata and decided to explain. "I knew Itachi from back before the massacre. I had the Sharingan, so sometimes I watched the Uchihas train so I could learn how to use my eyes. One time I heard him say this to his brother Sasuke. Being the best isn't all it's made out to be. When you're strong, you become arrogant and withdrawn. Even if what you sought after was your dream." Naruto said. He was right. I got so caught in my own power that I started comparing myself to gods. I may not have become arrogant, but it was only a matter of time. Naruto explained. "This is why I know that you aren't a god, Naruto-kun." Hinata replied, and Naruto looked curiously towards her. A god doesn't feel remorse or guilt. To them we are nothing more than insects. We were created by them, and they feel as if they own us. By owning us they can dispose of us as trash without a care in the world. Hinata explained, and Naruto listened intently. Feelings is what makes us human, and the fact that you feel guilty after what you have done is proof of that. Hinata explained. I suppose, Naruto replied. I have absolute control over life and death. To me it makes life seem like nothing, and yet I feel guilty over what I have done. Isn't it strange? Naruto rhetorically asked. I can take and give life as I wish, and yet, every time I take a life I feel empty inside. Naruto explained. That is the way of the shinobi. Hinata started. No matter how much we kid ourselves, we are weapons. We train and kill so that others don't. We kill so that our loved ones can live peacefully. We kill so that the people of Konoha can live in peace. Hinata said, and Naruto looked at her. Hinata had really grown up from her old shy personality. Where she once pulled her strength from Naruto, now she has her own. Everything you have done has been for the betterment of Kiri. It was best to end this war quickly than to further the bloodshed. It is the duty of the shinobi to carry this burden. Hinata finished and locked eyes with Naruto, losing herself in his blue eyes. And you don't have to feel empty or withdrawn, you have me. Hinata stated and pulled Naruto for a soft kiss, under the gaze of the bright moon on the sky. Naruto forgot all about his problems and focused solely on his girlfriend. He wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her closer, deepening the feeling of bliss and love. Hinata wrapped her hands around his neck, pulling him closer as well. They were lost in their own world that they didn't notice the presence of the dragons, that witnessed the whole thing from the beginning. Aowu, Red, Kushina, and Black, Mito, fanned over the couple kissing under the moonlight. Naruto and Hinata split when they heard that sound. Thanks a lot for ruining the moment. Hinata cutely pouted, making everyone chuckle. Come on, let's go back. Mei's speech is about to begin. Yellow said, and Naruto and Hinata followed them, still holding hands. Nothing would split them apart, not even death. Mizuki's tower. Excellent. Ao said as he watched the dragon step in through the large double doors. Now that our guests of honor are here, we can begin. Ao said, and the crowd quieted down and listened to what Ao had to say. Today is day of celebration. Today marks the official end of the bloodline war and the rise of our new Mizuki. Several days ago, Yagura was defeated after waging war against his own people for several years. Ao said, and a few people lowered their heads. But that is the past. We are here and we will rebuild. So, without further ado, I present you, Mei Terumi, the fifth Mizuki. Ao said, and the crowd erupted in cheers. From the side door a woman walked out. Mei was wearing her traditional blue dress but was also wearing her kaiga hat. A dark blue hat with the kanji for water imprinted in the front of the hat. The hat itself was proof that she was the new leader of this country, the new Mizuki. Everyone fell silent as the new Mizuki made her way towards the podium. Mei took a deep breath and started. Kirigakure, we are finally united. This country has been split for far too long. Under the rule of Yagura, the water country had been slowly withering away and this war didn't help. But, let's forget the past and work into building the future. I promise I will do my best to lead this country and village to a brighter tomorrow, for I am, Mei Terumi, Godame Mizuki. Mei stated, and the crowd cheered. Everyone was happy that the war was over and they start fresh, so to speak. Mei raised her hand and the crowd fell silent once again. Though this victory isn't only ours to celebrate. This war wouldn't have won so easily, and only Kami knows how much time we would have to endure Yagura's reign without Konoha's help. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the 8 dragons of the leaf. Mei said, and all of the dragons rose from their seats. I present you, the Kiri no Hachi ni no Ayu. The 8 heroes of the mist. Mei shouted, and the whole crowd cheered for their heroes. Who would have thought that Konoha shinobi would be considered heroes of another foreign country? But this was the start of an alliance that would last for decades to come. This was the first step of the peace the Sage of 6 Paths always wanted. As long as Mizuki, they will always be welcome here in our country. As per our agreement towards the Hokage, Kiri is now fully allied with the Leaf. Mei said, and everyone smiled. And I hope this treaty lasts for years to come. Mei said, and the crowd cheered once again. Now, let's party and get drunk. Mei shouted, and everyone chuckled. You know. Hinata started, getting the attention of Naruto. We never danced. Hinata said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. You never said anything about liking it. Naruto said, confused. Naruto-kun, every girl wants to be like a princess, even if it's only momentarily. Hinata replied, and Naruto nodded. Where did you learn how to dance? Naruto asked, curious. The academy, of course. Did you think that the seduction class was only about looking good and charming? Hinata rhetorically asked, but Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Besides, I did learn the basics when I lived in the Hyuga clan. Hinata explained. Sorry, Hinata-chan, but I don't know how to dance. Naruto replied, timidly scratching the back of his head. You really are a knucklehead. Hinata said, playfully hitting his shoulder. Your Sharingan can copy more than jutsu, you know. Hinata said, amused, and Naruto blinked and blinked again as his brain caught up with her. I'm an idiot. Naruto said, shaking his head and activating his Sharingan. Maybe. Hinata replied, giggling. But you are my idiot. Hinata said, pecking him on the lips. Lead on, princess. Naruto said, and placed his arm around Hinata's waist while Hinata placed her own arm on his shoulder. Naruto easily caught up with the steps and both danced perfectly and in sync. They danced for what seemed to be hours, never looking away from each other. They were lost in each other's arms. Eventually the music came to an end and they split for a small break and went towards the rest of the dragons. We have to do something. Naruto heard Green, Hashirama, say as they arrived near them. What's up? Naruto asked, and Green pointed towards Blue, Tobirama, who's sitting down in a table silently watching everyone. I don't follow. Naruto said, confused, looking at his great uncle. We have to do something about him. Even back in the day he was always sulking and brooding around in the corners. If it wasn't for my sensing abilities I could swear he was an Uchiha. Green said, and Naruto's sweat dropped. What do you propose? Black Mito asked, curious as to what her husband had planned. A woman. Hashirama said, nodding his head, confident on his choice. You want to set up him with a hooker? Yellow Minato asked, tilting his head to the side, confused. Red Kushina smacked in the head and dropped him to the floor. Why are all men idiots? Red rhetorically asked. You can make space-time jutsu that allows instant teleportation, but understand woman ga. Kushina almost shouted. Even after you rescued me, I had to pin you to the wall and shove my tongue on your throat for you to realize I liked you. Kushina said, and Minato pouted while everyone chuckled. I know just the person for him. Naruto said with his eyes twinkling with mischief. And who is that person? Hashirama asked, and Naruto pointed to a woman with red hair and blue dress. Oh, she is perfect for him. Hinata said, thinking about the new couple. Sure, until she gets pissed off and melts his balls. Minato sarcastically replied. Will you give it a rest? Kushina replied, smacking Minato again. Now, how should we do this? Kushina asked, and the dragons began plotting Tobirama's fate, while he was completely unaware. 5 minutes later everyone was in position. Get your ass up! Black Mito shouted as she appeared next to the brooding Tobirama. What do want, Black? Tobirama asked, slightly afraid of her tone. Hell hath no fury as an angry Uzumaki, or Senju for that matter. We are going to dance, now up, Mito said, and Tobirama complained. Why don't you take this with my brother? He is your husband after all. Tobirama complained as he just wanted some peace of mind. Now, Mito growled and Tobirama jumped to his feet. That's better, Mito said, and dragged him to the dance floor. Tobirama and Mito were dancing, much against Tobirama's will, but he thought this would be the safest way. Here, Hinata said as she approached him. Have a drink. Hinata offered, and Tobirama was about to refuse until he saw the murderous look on Mito's eyes. Even through the mask he could feel her gaze drawing a hole in his skull should he refuse. Tobirama shook his head and gulped down the sake. I wonder when is this nightmare going to end? Tobirama thought to himself as someone poked him in his back. Heads up, Naruto said, and Tobirama got confused until he felt Naruto's foot on his back. Tobirama flew through the room. Naruto used his gravity manipulation to make sure Tobirama didn't collide with anyone and found his way into the arms of the right person. It only took a second for Tobirama to collide with someone's back. Oh my, Mei stated, looking amused at Blue. You know, you don't have to crash into me to ask me for a dance. I'm not that hard to approach, Mei said, and offered him her hand for a dance. Tobirama looked conflicted and thought best to accept, otherwise his balls might be in danger. I'm going to kill that brat, Blue angrily thought as he took her hand and led her to the dance floor. Success, Naruto shouted and every dragon cheered. Amigekure in a dark cave, a lone figure could be seen walking towards another who was by the door. The one by the door had spiky orange hair with multiple piercings on his nose, chin and ears. He was wearing a long black cloak with red clouds. He was Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki. Pain, the other person called out as he approached. He had the same cloak with black spiky hair, and had an orange mask. "It's time," Toby said, and Pain nodded, flashing through hand seals. In some unknown cave, 10 spectral figures could be seen standing in the dark. Every single one of them had the standard black cloak with red clouds. They were standing in a perfect circle. "Before we begin, I would like to introduce our newest member." "Toby," Pain said as Toby waved to everybody. "Toby is a good boy," Toby cheerfully stated, being his orange mask. "I guess these meetings won't be so dull now," Kisame said, laughing, while Itachi remained his stoic person. "As of now, we are back to 10 members. Deidara, Sasori, Kakuzu, Haiden, Itachi, Kisame, Zetsu, Toby, Konan, me," Pain started. "It's time we began our plans and started hunting down the Jinchurikis. As of now, both the Achibi, Nibi, Hachibi, and the Kyubi are out of our grasp," Pain said until he was interrupted. "Why don't we simply bomb the villages and then take them?" Deidara said, molding clay in his hands. "You are a fool, Deidara," Kakuzu started. "The Hachibi has full control over his bijou and he never leaves Kumogakure. Coupled that with his brother the Yandame Reikage, and it would be impossible for us to take them," Kakuzu said, and Pain nodded, knowing that it was true. "The same thing could be said of Konoha. According to my spies, the Kyubi brat has grown strong," Pain said. "How strong?" Itachi asked, curious about the growth of Naruto. "Strong enough to take 2,000 shinobi and Yagura himself when he conquered the Mist Village alone," Pain said, and Itachi's eyes widened. "You mean to tell me that the Kyubi brat stormed the Mist Village and defeated Yagura and his army?" Kisame asked, not believing what he had heard. "Yes," Pain simply replied. "He's going to be a pain in the ass to capture," Kisame replied, laughing. "The fact that the Kyubi brat is now being called the Shinobi no Kami, god of the shinobi, and that he has a flee-on-sight order in the bingo book is proof of his strength. Besides that, he also has full control over his bijou. Not only that, but he is always in the presence of at least his girlfriend Hyuga Hinata, who is also considered a S-rank shinobi and not to be taken lightly," Pain explained. "I'll say, that damn girl defeated my second-in-command, forcing her into using Izanagi," Toby thought to himself. Things weren't looking good. As of now, those 4 are out of our reach. In the meantime, Haiden, Kakuzu, head for Taki and capture Fu, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabai. Itachi, Kisame, head for the Earth Country and scout for both the Yambi and Gobi. Deidara, Sasori, go to the Water Country and scout for Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi," Pain ordered, and once he received acknowledgments from everybody, he left. Back in AIM after the meeting was over. "You know that only you can stand up to the Kyubi brat, right?" Toby asked towards Pain. "I don't think he is as powerful as you say. But if necessary, I'll be the one to capture him," Pain replied and walked off. "Your time is coming to an end." Nagato, Toby thought darkly and warped away. Mei's bedroom dawn. Everything was dark and quiet in this bedroom. As the sun came up in the sky, a few beams managed to sneak through the blinds and awake Mei from her slumber. Mei groggily woke up and brought her hand to her face to block the light. "Oh, my head," Mei said, nursing her head and rising to a sitting position. Once she sat down on her bed, the sheets fell down to reveal her naked figure. Mei looked down and found it weird, as she never slept naked, but then again, she couldn't remember much from last night. Mei tried to rise but found herself stuck as the sheets wouldn't budge. She looked to her right to find someone else lying there asleep, and, judging by his lack of clothes, he was also naked. "Oh God," Mei said to herself, covering up and shaking the man awake. Tobirama groggily opened his eyes and looked up to see the shocked face of Mei staring at him. "Oh God," Mei yelled when she saw Tobirama's face and his blue mask on the floor. "Shiite! I'm going to kill that brat," Tobirama thought to himself, and wondered how he was going to walk away from this one with his balls intact. Chapter 42 Akatsuki Strikes. Konoha Gates. It was a standard day for the eternal guards of Konoha's gates. There was a small breeze in the air, and the sun was shining high in the sky. Poor Izumo and Kotetsu were in their regular job. Kotetsu was sleeping like always, while Izumo was tilting back in his chair looking up at the clear sky. "Kukukuku, Izumo heard and shifted his eyes from the sky and into the gates, only to come face to face with the snake Sannin himself. "Oh my! Look at what we have here, Kakukaku!" Orochimaru said, chuckling darkly and licking his lips with his freakish long tongue. Orochimaru! Izumo stuttered and proceeded to faint, smacking his head on the wooden desk. A small crack appeared as his forehead made contact with the wooden desk. "Too easy," Orochimaru said, poofing into smoke to reveal Naruto in his battle armor. "That wasn't even funny." Naruto pouted while Red Kushina grinned at him and Hinata just shook her head. "Alright team," Naruto called out, gathering the attention on the dragons. "Go home while I report with Hinata-chan. I have a few things to talk about with Ba-chan," Naruto said, and everyone blurred out of his sight. It was testament to their power, as it only took a split second before every dragon was out of Naruto's field of vision. Then again, what would you expect from an S-rank shinobi? "Let's go, Hinata-chan," Naruto said, and both of them jumped high in the sky, taking the rooftops towards the Hokage Tower. "Hokage Tower. Yo Ba-chan," Naruto said, making a hello gesture with his right arm as he entered Tsunade's office. As Naruto entered the office, it came into view just how much paperwork there was. 3 Tsunades were working hard on the paperwork, while what Naruto guessed was the original laid back on her chair with a cup of tea. "Working hard, I see," Naruto said, amused with the glare he was receiving from the clones. He gave a small chuckle when he heard the clones murmur something about a rebellion against their tyrannical leader. "A woman has to do what a woman has to do, I guess," Tsunade happily said, taking a sip of her drink. "Shut up and back to work," Tsunade yelled when she noticed the clones glaring at her. They flinched and got back to work, growling at their maker. "So, welcome back," Tsunade said, welcoming Naruto and Hinata. They had been gone a couple of weeks. She was pleased as to how good things were going. She had been hearing good news from the mist. "It's good to be back. Mist is too moist for my taste," Naruto said, sighing in relief. "And that mist is everywhere, and I mean everywhere," Naruto said, while Tsunade's sweat dropped as his behavior. "I didn't mind that kind of weather," Hinata replied, bringing a finger to her chin. "Of course you didn't," Naruto replied, shaking his head. "In there you could pull water from the air as you please," Naruto explained, and Hinata happily nodded. "Enough of this pleasantries, report," Tsunade ordered, and Naruto snapped from his child's play and into his formal stance. "The mission was a complete success. I'm pleased to say that the rebel side won the war, and with only 5% casualties since our arrival. Yugura, the Yondaime Mizukage, Jinchuriki of the Sanbai, was defeated and his tailed beast was set free," Naruto explained, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Yes, the price they paid for our help was a promise to never seal the Sanbai into anyone," Naruto said, and got a small smile in his lips when he heard Kurama chuckle in his head. "And they went along with that?" Tsunade asked, dubious that they would agree with such terms. "Kind of. I made a deal with Isabu that if he guarded their village as guardian instead of a prisoner, then he would be free," Naruto said, but Tsunade still wasn't convinced. It seemed that there was a chunk missing in his story. And the fact that Naruto-kun promised pain to anyone that hurt the Sanbai also helped. Hinata supplied, getting a glare from Naruto. Tsunade didn't need to know that Naruto was already threatening their allies. "I should have known," Tsunade said, shaking her head. She should have known that side of Naruto to make sure that the Bijou were treated fairly like any other living being. "Here," Naruto said, and threw a scroll towards Tsunade, who easily caught it. "What's this?" Tsunade asked as she unwrapped the scroll, but Naruto shrugged his shoulders. The scroll was addressed specifically towards Tsunade, and Naruto didn't have the right to open it instead of her. "This?" Tsunade stared with her eyes widened, looking at the content of the scroll. "What's wrong?" Naruto asked, curious as to what would get such reaction from Tsunade. It was like someone had just offered to pay up all of Tsunade's debts while giving her sake. "The Mist is willing to forge their special blades for us to use as a token of their appreciation for our help and to cement the alliance," Tsunade said, gobsmacked. The Mist was willing to forge their special swords for Konoha to use. The Mist had the best swords, and all of them were special, either being the Zabuza's Kubikurabocho or Kisame's Samahata. "Really?" Naruto asked, surprised, and Tsunade slowly nodded. She chuckled and placed down the scroll. The future was looking good, and she could have sworn she heard a squeal from Nico, Yugao, up in the ceiling. "But enough of this, any casualties?" Tsunade asked, roaming through the paperwork. "Yeah, about that," Naruto said, chuckling and scratching the back of his head. "What happened?" Tsunade said in a dangerous voice with her eyes blazing with fire. Even the clone stopped working and joined in the glare. I swear it was Green's Hashirama idea, Naruto quickly said, backing up and putting his hands up as a shield. Back in the mist, Tobirama picked up Mei by her waist and lifted her, pushing her against the wall. She wrapped her legs around his waist. Mei started running her hands through his hair as Tobirama hungrily kissed her neck. Mei tilted her head back in pleasure, allowing Tobirama better access to her soft skin. Tobirama walked forward and pushed her against her desk, knocking everything to the ground. So good, Mei moaned as Tobirama's hand started roaming through her body, massaging her thighs up her flat stomach, feeling her big and firm breasts. Feeling good, Mizuhime, water princess? Tobirama asked closely to her ear. Mei got shivers when she felt his warm breath down her ear and neck. I've got to thank that brat, Tobirama thought to himself, continuing his work. A/N, and I leave the rest to your imagination, back in Konoha. So you hooked up Blue Tobirama with Mei? Tsunade asked, and Naruto slowly nodded from behind Hinata, much to her amusement. Nice work, brat, Tsunade said, and Naruto was surprised by that but nonetheless sighed in relief. Naruto thought he would be in the receiving end of one of her punches when he and Hashirama decided to play matchmakers. Mei is a strong and independent woman. She will do him good, Tsunade said, and Naruto nodded. The only thing in real danger was Tobirama's balls, but Naruto could heal him should anything happen. And if things go well, we might have a wedding to further cement our alliance, Tsunade said, and Naruto nodded, knowing that it was very true. Can you send your Umbu out of the room? Naruto rhetorically asked. I need to talk to you in private, Naruto said, and Tsunade quickly caught up with the serious voice and did just that. With a small wave of hand, and the Umbu left the room. Naruto placed a quick silence seal to that nothing got out. So what is it that you want? Tsunade asked cautiously and with a serious face. I need permission to talk with Sasuke, Naruto said, and Tsunade started sweating. Yeah, about that, Tsunade said, chuckling nervously. He kind of escaped the prison, Tsunade stated while her clones chuckled evilly at their owner's misfortune. How the fuck did he do that? Naruto blurted out. Language, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, scolding Naruto. I mean, I destroyed his chakra network. Not even you could have healed that kind of damage, so how the hell did he manage to escape? Naruto asked, and Tsunade sighed before explaining everything and showing him the surveillance tape that showed Tobi knocking the Umbu out and warping away with Sasuke. Gahhhhhhh, Naruto shouted in frustration and releasing enough chakra to crack the ground. That damned Uchiha is everywhere. Just what the hell does he want? Naruto yelled. First he released the Kyuubi in Konoha, killing my mother and father in the process. Then he goes to the mist and starts a bloodline war. He what? Tsunade shouted, rising from her chair, but Naruto kept rambling on and promising a painful death to Tobi. Tobi was behind the scenes controlling Yugura. He was one that began the bloodline purge, although I don't know to what end. Hinata explained towards her sensei, who fell back to her chair. Who the hell is this Uchiha? How can someone so powerful stay hidden from everyone? Especially to Konoha, that was the Uchiha's birthplace. Tsunade-bachan, Naruto said, breaking Tsunade's train of thought. I want access to Konoha's archives about the Uchiha clan and permission to exhume Uchiha now, Naruto said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Why do you want that? Tsunade asked, and Naruto motioned Hinata to explain. I fought against an Uchiha back in the mist. She was a few years older than me, and she had an eternal Manjiki Sharingan. Hinata explained, and Tsunade's jaw dropped. Just what the hell was going on here? Uchihas were popping out everywhere. It's like they were copying each other. A/N, nah, the irony. Are you sure? Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded. I want to confirm that she existed and to see if there is a body to begin with, Naruto explained, and Tsunade nodded, nursing her temples. She was having such a good day until Naruto arrived. Fine, Tsunade agreed, stamping a paper and giving it to Naruto so he had access to the archives. I'll set up the exhumation and perform the autopsy on the body, if there is one, Tsunade said. Alright, Naruto cheered back to his old personality. To Ichiraku's ramen stand, Naruto yelled, pumping his fists into the air and walking out the room with Hinata shaking her head at his behavior. Not so fast, Tsunade called out from behind her desk and stopping Naruto on his tracks. Now that you are back from your mission, I already have something planned for all of the dragons while you are on vacation, so to speak, Tsunade stated, and Naruto stared at her. It seems that Tobirama will be busy in Kiri, so that leaves the dragons one man down. Since our Umbu commander decided to get himself killed, I need Hashirama and Minato on Umbu duty. Tsunade explained, roaming through the maze of papers before turning to Hinata. Hinata-chan, I need you at the hospital. We are short on personnel and you could really help us out, Tsunade said, and Hinata nodded. As for you, Naruto-chan, I have a very good assignment, Tsunade said, chuckling, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at her tone. I want you to participate on a small lecture at the academy for the students, Tsunade said, and Naruto stared at her. You want me to what? Naruto asked, confused as he didn't know exactly what to do. You want me to teach the brats or something? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. Nothing like that. Konohamaru, you and Kakashi will be participating in a small lecture on the students. To tell them what the shinobi life is like from Genin to Chunin and finally Jounin. Tsunade explained, and Naruto slowly nodded. Why me though? Naruto asked, confused. There are plenty of Chunin around, Naruto stated. True, but you are the clan head of the Senju clan. Being a clan head does bring some obligations. Konohamaru is the third's grandson and most likely one of the most promising and well-known genins. The same could be said for you in the Chunin area, and Kakashi is one of our best jounins. Tsunade explained, and Naruto nodded. Might be fun, Naruto said, grinning. So when is this lecture I have to give? Naruto asked. I'll set it up and tell you later, Tsunade said, and Naruto and Hinata left the room. Shizen, Tsunade yelled from her desk. Moments later, Shizen walked inside. Prep an autopsy room. I want this done quietly, understand? Tsunade asked, and Shizen nodded. What are you looking at? Tsunade growled at her clones. Back to work, she ordered, and clones mumbled something before going to their daily work. Ah. Tsunade sighed, tilting back on her chair. The wonderful life of a Kage, Tsunade said, taking a sip of her tea. Ichiraku's ramen stand Naruto and Hinata arrived in a swirl as Naruto used his kamui to quickly arrive at his favorite stand. And he was surprised to see Red Kushina gobbling up bowls of ramen. She was eating bowl after bowl, and didn't even invite Naruto. Dear Lord, Ichiraku said as she sped through the kitchen to keep up with the demand. It's like the Red Death is here once again, Ichiraku said, and Naruto chuckled inwardly. Old man, Naruto called out as he sat down with Hinata. You better speed up as I'm hungry, Naruto said, and Ichiraku paled. Ayami, get in here, Ichiraku shouted to his daughter as he needed more hands on deck. Ayami ran into the kitchen and barely was able to greet Naruto before Ichiraku shoved a bowl in her face. How about a contest to see who eats more? Naruto asked Red, who grinned behind her mask. Ichiraku paled when he heard that. It was a shame he didn't know any clone technique. Ready? Red said as both of them picked up their chopsticks. Hinata and Yellow, Minato, could only shake their heads at their face-off. Set, Red said as a bowl of ramen was placed down in front of each. Go, Red said, and in a flash the bowl was empty. Ichiraku was running from place to place that he was sweating. 10 bowls down, Naruto shouted as he managed to get a small lead ahead of Kushina. 10, another, Kushina shouted at Ichiraku, who flinched and quickly placed another bowl down. 1 hour later, victory, Naruto shouted as he placed the final bowl down and looked towards Kushina, who was passed out on her stool. I think, Naruto said as he brought his hand to his mouth. I'm gonna be sick, Naruto said, and ran towards a nearby bush and emptied his stomach. Kushina said from the stool as she regained her bearings. I win, you couldn't hold your liquor, Kushina said, panting before running the same bush. Unbelievable, Kurama muttered inside his host's mind. Even the fox was started to feel nauseated. That's disgusting, Hinata said, and Minato just chuckled. Hinata and Minato ate a few bowls each one and stopped once they were full, but Naruto seemed to have other plans. Both he and Kushina managed to eat an impressive amount of 50 bowls before both threw up. I feel awful, Naruto said as stumbled his way towards his girlfriend. See you tomorrow, old man, Naruto said towards Ichiraku, who was on the ground huffing from the workout. Naruto took 2 steps before slamming face first on the ground with Kushina on top. You take her, I take him, Hinata said towards Minato, who nodded and picked up Kushina from the ground. Naruto, Hinata called out towards his boyfriend as he leaned of her arms for support. I have a favor to ask you, Hinata said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at her request. Anything for you, Hinata-chan, Naruto said, channeling a bit of Kurama's chakra to speed the healing and bring him out of his sickness. I want to learn Senjutsu. Hinata and Naruto stopped walking and turned towards her. Okay, but why? Naruto asked, confused. Besides the fact it would be a huge power boost to me, I also want to explore the medical applications of it. I heard that Hashirama can do wonders with it, and I want to try it as well. Hinata explained, and Naruto chuckled before nodding. Of course. Since we have a few days, I'll teach you how to gather and control it, Naruto said, and Hinata pecked his cheek. Now, how about I show you just how thankful I am? Hinata whispered into Naruto's ear, nibbling on his earlobe. He didn't have to be told twice before flashing away, leaving Minato with a fainted Kushina on his arms. How come I didn't think of that? Minato asked to no one as he also flashed home. Takigakure. Next day, Takigakure was having a peaceful day as any other. Taki was a small shinobi village that didn't even come close to one of the Great Five. Their army rounded only 1,000 shinobi, and many wondered why they had a bijou to begin with. It's been a while. A man clad with a black cloak with red clouds said as he and another man stopped walking. I haven't been here in many years, Kakuzu said as he overlooked what was once his home village. The other man screamed to his partner. He wore the same black cloak with red clouds. He had silver hair that was slicked back and purple eyes. On his back he carried a triple-bladed scythe. Don't you go all mushy on me, Haiden screamed. Shut up, Haiden, or do you want us to be caught? Kakuzu reasoned as they walked through the village disguised by a small genjutsu. If it were up to me, I would kill everybody so I could bathe in the glory of Jashin-sama. All hail Jashin. Haiden screamed, drawing the attention of nearby people. Shut up, Haiden, or I'll kill you, Kakuzu stated. As if you could, Haiden replied, making Kakuzu groan in annoyance. They seemed to be walking calmly, but both of them kept their ears sharp for any chatter regarding Fu, the Jinchuriki they were hunting. Thank you, Fu said to the store owner as she ran towards her house with a small bag. Green hair, orange eyes. It's her Haiden, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabai, Kakuzu said as both of them watched their target leave, running towards the edge of the village. After all, the village was rather small when compared to the others' great nations. If I remember correctly, she's heading to the edge of the village, Kakuzu murmured to himself. Why don't you go play with the village while I take our target? Kakuzu said to his teammate. Finally, watch this, Jashin-sama. It will be a show that you will never forget, Haiden said. He dispelled the genjutsu and picked his scythe before he went running through the village, swinging his scythe wildly. And people say I'm insane for collecting hearts, Kakuzu said as he watched Haiden behead a civilian. At least he will keep the village out of my way while I finish things with Fu, Kakuzu said to himself before blurring after Fu. Waterfall Tower, Shibuki-sama. One shinobi yelled as he rushed towards the waterfall tower in the middle of the village. What's the problem? Shibuki quickly replied, standing up from his chair. We are being attacked by a nuke-nin. The shinobi explained, taking deep breaths. Nuke-nin as in single? Shibuki asked, and the shinobi only nodded. Gather the civilians and evacuate them to the tunnels beneath the lake. Summon the waterfall unit, and have him stall the enemy until evacuation is complete, Shibuki ordered, and the shinobi nodded, poofing into smoke. Takigakure, main clearing. Mueh. Haiden laughed as he slashed yet another poor soul. All hail Jashin. Haiden shouted as he bathed in the blood of his enemies. Mizu Tatsumaki, water tornado, Shibuki said, blurring through hand seals. A tornado of water rushed head-on and crashed into Haiden, who was sent flying into a nearby tree. Who the fuck did that? Haiden screamed as he got up to see someone with ink-black eyes and long, dark brown hair. Black cloak with red clouds, Akatsuki. Shibuki thought in worry. If this shinobi was really from the Akatsuki, then there was no one in the village strong enough to take him down. Send word to the Leaf that we are under attack and dispatch a team to Fu's location, Shibuki ordered. We can only hope to hold on until help arrives, Shibuki thought to himself as he made another set of hand seals. Takigakiryu, Mizukiri no Yaiba, waterfall style, water-cutting sword, Shibuki said as water materialized itself on the palm of his hand and suddenly solidified. Shibuki rushed head-on against the trespasser. Looking at the horizon, he could see smoke from an explosion. Don't you dare lose Fu, Shibuki thought as he clashed with Haiden's scythe. Each clash of sword against scythe drew sparks from the power behind each swings. Shibuki ducked under a horizontal swing. Shibuki kicked Haiden's foot, making him lose his balance, and tackled him away to get some distance. Haiden got up and rushed Shibuki. Haiden ducked under a kunai thrown by another shinobi. Haiden jumped in the air and brought his side down only for Shibuki to sidestep it and thrust his blade forward. Haiden tilted his body to the side and allowed the blade to pass by him safely. Haiden titled his head back and headbutted Shibuki, who groaned in pain and fell backwards. Suetun Suryuden no Jutsu, Water Dragon. Shibuki called out, and a water dragon rose from the dragon with shining yellow eyes. The dragon roared and went for Haiden, who placed his scythe in front of him, blocking most of the damage, but nonetheless he was blasted backwards. Die! Shibuki yelled as he appeared next to a dazed Haiden and flexed his blade forward. The blade went through Haiden's back, right through his hearth. Awesome! A shinobi cheered. Shibuki-sama is strong. Another stated, Fuck, Haiden said as he spat some blood into the ground. That hurt, Haiden said, looking directly at the widened eyes of Shibuki and everyone else. Stop moving, will you? Haiden said, and Shibuki quickly withdrew his blade and went to behead Haiden, only to have his arm caught. Haiden caught his arm and kicked him away. What monster is he? Shibuki asked as he spat blood to the ground and got up into a defensive stance. Fetch the Ayuno Mizu, hero's water. Shibuki ordered, and the shinobi paled but went to get it. Apparently the enemy was stronger than it seemed. Fu vs. Kakuzubyo. The tree was completely destroyed when a massive fireball collided with it. Fu jumped out and landed safely on the ground. She turned and came face to face with her aggressor. So you came for me after all, Fu said as her heart started racing and adrenaline flooded her veins. Why don't you just come with us, girl? You and I both know you stand no chance. Kakuzu stoically said. I have a few aces up my sleeves, Fu said as she blurred through hand seals. Suetun Tepidama, water bullet. Fu said and sent multiple water bullets against Kakuzu, who remained in place. Doton, Tsuchi no Yoroi, rock armor. Kakuzu thought as his skin became pitch black from being hardened with earth chakra. The water bullets hit Kakuzu, but he wasn't even phased. Kakuzu didn't even buckle as they felt nothing more than drops of water, like if it were rain. Tisk. Fu thought as she thought what she could do against such foe. She didn't want to call and depend on Naruto to help her. If she called him, she would be placing him in harm's way as well, and she didn't want to risk it unless she absolutely needed to. Kakuzu dashed forward and engaged Fu in a taijutsu brawl. Fu quickly realized she didn't stand a chance as she was easily overpowered in both speed and strength. Fu's hits couldn't scratch Kakuzu's hardened skin and his punches felt like stone. Doton Domu Earth Spear. Kakuzu said as his right fist hardened even more and slammed into Fu's face. Fu dispersed in a puddle of water, water clone, Kakuzu thought as several water whips burst from the ground and wrapped around his feet. Suetun Suryuden no Jutsu, water dragon. Fu shouted as a massive dragon rose from the ground, headed towards the immobile Kakuzu, who stood his ground. The dragon washed into him with high pressure. Once the dragon attack was over, Kakuzu stood there being only drenched head to toe. You are going to have to do better, Kakuzu said as he broke the water restraints and jumped back to gain some distance. My turn, Kakuzu said, flashing through hand seals. Katan Zukaku no Jutsu, cranium carver, Kakuzu said, and small but powerful fireball was sent towards Fu at high speeds. Fu poofed into smoke, revealing a small wooden log as the fireball crashed into the ground and exploded in a fire dome, scorching the ground and lighting up the tree in flames. Fu watched sadly as her house was consumed by the flames. Fu turned her attention towards her village and noticed that there were also fires there. She figured that the village was being kept busy while Kakuzu dealt with her. That, or the village as simply not bothered to send help. After all, who would want to help out a demon? Fu was brought out of her thoughts when she saw Kakuzu rushing towards her. Let me help, Chomei said, thought their mental link. Chomei, Fu said, surprised to hear her. If they capture you, it will be the end for both of us, Chomei reasoned, but Fu was adamant. I can't control your chakra in the version 2 cloak, and I think that the version 1 won't do much against them. Fu replied to her Bija as she held off Kakuzu as best as she could. Power isn't always the best solution, Chomei critically said, bringing a small smile to Fu's face. You have other gifts other than my chakra, Chomei said, and Fu nodded, ducking under a punch and jumping backwards to safety. Hijitsu Mushios, insect summoning jutsu, Fu said as she placed her hands on the ground and started releasing chakra into it. Insects from all kinds started gathering near Fu. Kakuzu wanted none of that and rushed forward. Kakuzu thought that Fu was weak and wasn't necessary to employ any ninjutsu for now. Bojui no Jin, Spindle formation, Fu said, and a wave of bugs rushed Kakuzu in a spiral formation, stopping any advancement he tried. Kakuzu was being overwhelmed by the amount of bugs. Kakuzu decided to stop playing with his prey and his skin burst open. From inside of his body came out a glob of black something with a red mask. The red mask flew high into the sky and fired a fireball towards the original Kakuzu. Kakuzu was set on flames and the bugs incinerated as part of his cloak. A small price to pay to get rid of those annoyances. Fu ducked under whip of something black. She looked carefully at Kakuzu and noticed that he was releasing black threads from his skin. "You're Kakuzu, a new Knin from this village," Fu said, shocked. This person defected long ago, but apparently he was still running around. "Indeed," Kakuzu said as he released a mouthful of black threads from his mouth. His body started convulsing as 3 other black globes shot from inside of it. Kakuzu was now standing with 4 masks around him. 1 red mask, 1 light blue, 1 dark blue, and the last was a yellow mask. Both red and light blue masks came together and fused. Both masks opened their mouths as chakra started gathering in each. Katan, Zukaku no Jutsu, Cranium Carver, Futon Atsugai, Pressurized Wind Bomb. Both masks released the attacks. The fire stream combined with the wind attack, powering it up. A wave of fire was released, scorching the ground as it made its way towards Fu, who had her eyes widened at the magnitude of the attack. Fu channeled a little of her Bija's chakra and focused it on her back. Suddenly 2 wings popped out and started flapping wildly. Fu quickly rose into the sky as high as she could to try and escape the inferno that her enemy had unleashed. Though she avoided the fire attack, she didn't get too far as the light blue mask came up behind her. Futon Atsugai, Pressurized Wind Bomb. The light blue mask released a pressurized wind bomb that collided head-on with Fu. Fu crashed hard into the ground and had trouble getting up from taking such direct blow. Fu winced as Komiai's chakra got to work on healing her wounds as she got back up. Hiden, Rinpongakure no Jutsu, Secret, Hiding in Scale Powder Technique, Fu said as she exhaled a white power temporarily blinding Kakuzu. Fu got up and jumped back as far as she could to regain her breath. "Man, I never had such fun," Hiden said as he approached Kakuzu. Hiden was carrying someone on his back. There was a body dangling from the scythe. "Oh, back already?" Kakuzu asked as he noticed how bloody Hiden was. "It looks like you didn't lose your head this time," Kakuzu said. "Shut up, you bastard!" Hiden screamed, and Fu's eyes widened when she saw Shibuki's form with a scythe through his chest. "No, Shibuki!" Fu thought, sobbing as massive amount of chakra surged through her body. Kakuzu and Hiden stopped talking and turned their attention towards Fu. "You bastards, I'm going to kill you both!" Fu shouted as purple chakra surrounded and she entered her version 2 cloak. Chapter 43, Power Unmatched. Previously. "No, Shibuki!" Fu thought, sobbing as massive amount of chakra surged through her body. Kakuzu and Hiden stopped talking and turned their attention towards Fu. "You bastards, I'm going to kill you both!" Fu shouted as purple chakra surrounded her, and she entered her version 2 cloak. Now Kakuzu and Hiden watched in wonder as a purple sphere completely surrounded Fu. The ground was slight shaking and the winds were rustling through the plain field. Suddenly the whole sphere turned pitch black and large beam of energy was shot into the sky. "That can't be good," Kakuzu thought as he shielded his face from the scorching winds that Fu's transformation was releasing. A massive roar was heard from inside the sphere. Both Akatsuki members flinched when they felt a massive shockwave that made the earth shake. The black sphere started receding and Kakuzu could now see 2 glowing green eyes behind the small layer that was now the sphere. The black sphere suddenly exploded outwards, blasting everything away. Kakuzu and Hiden were blown away as a small crater formed from Fu's transformation. There, in the middle of the crater, was Fu, completely surrounded in a dark blue chakra cloak. She had 5 tails swinging wildly and wings protruded from her back. She was on all 4 like some hungry lion ready to pounce on his dinner. Around her blue shell was a protective layer of bones. The bones covered about half of her body. The bones were shaped like claws in her legs, and around her head was a white cranium with 2 massive horns. Even through her helmet, of sorts, the 2 green eyes remained glowing in the background and shining through the bone structure. "Fu, are you in there?" Chomei asked her host. Chomei wondered how did Fu manage to pull so much chakra from her, since the seal was still intact. Fu roared at the 2 Akatsuki members who braced themselves for their upcoming doom. Kakuzu cursed Haiden for the 1000th time. He just had to kill and bring with him a person that the Jinchuriki seemed to like, and in such a condition. She's completely lost it, she isn't in control, Chome thought as she wrestled through the seal for control. Fu was a wild gun at this point as she was nothing but instinct. Fu was nothing more than pure destruction lusting for revenge against her two enemies. Things could go really bad from here, for either the Akatsuki members or anyone that stood in front of Fu using her version 2 cloak. Fu coiled herself and leaped forward at blinding speeds. Before Haiden could react, Fu leaned her head forward and completely pierced him with her 2 horns. One horn in each shoulder, pinning him to the ground. Haiden screamed and tried to get away, but he wasn't going anywhere soon. Kakuzu quickly rushed his teammate and tried to kick Fu away, only to be swept away by one of her tails, like some bothersome fly. Haiden was panicking and having flashbacks of his life as Fu removed her horns and secured Haiden to the ground using her tails. Haiden screamed as Fu opened her mouth and purple chakra started gathering in her mouth just inches away from Haiden's face. Kakuzu, Haiden screamed in fear for the first time in his life as he watched the tailed beast bomb increase in size right in front of him. Katan Zukaku no Jutsu, Cranium Carver, Kakuzu said and fired a powerful fireball towards Fu. The fireball collided with Fu but got only white smoke. She didn't even bother to turn towards Kakuzu. She had just one target in her mind right now, and he was right where she wanted him. The purple ball stopped growing and with a small shockwave it compressed to the size of marbles. Fu roared and the small was sent forward, breaking through Haiden's teeth and entering his mouth. Before Haiden could process what happened, he swallowed the chakra ball. Haiden didn't have time to scream as the chakra ball exploded, lighting everything up. Suetun Mizurapa, Wild Water Wave, Kakuzu said and unleashed water towards the site of the explosion to try and salvage what would remain on his partner. Suddenly a shockwave rocked through the ground and a crater formed. Chunks of Haiden's body were blasted away from the epicenter. An arm here, a leg over there, his head not too far away and his torso nowhere to be seen. It was completely obliterated. Kakuzu had his eyes widened at the state of his partner. Haiden was supposed to be immortal and indestructible. He had increased regeneration that allowed any wound to heal in a matter of seconds. But now, he wasn't so sure of his immortality. Kakuzu focused his eyes on his target. From inside the smoke, the same 2 green eyes were seen glowing. Fu started walking out of the crater as her state became more and more visible. She didn't suffer any damage from any of Kakuzu's attack or for being in the site of the explosion. The only problem this time was a 6th tail that had just been formed. Kakuzu had sweat rolling down his face as he noticed the predicament he was in. His partner had been obliterated and now he was facing a 6-tailed Jinchuriki who wasn't pleased with him. Even Kakuzu couldn't hope to withstand or even block a mildly powered tailed best bomb. Remain calm, you still have your 5 hearts, Kakuzu thought as he planned the best he could against his target, who right now didn't seem like some weak girl. Oi Kakuzu, Haiden screamed and Kakuzu's eyes widened. Kakuzu slowly turned to his right to see Haiden's head screaming towards him. Why you're still alive? Kakuzu stuttered, looking at the state of his partner. I can't die, you bastard! Haiden shouted, slowly regenerating. He had already regained his vocal cords as his neck was already reformed. Stitch my arms and legs back together while I heal, Haiden said, and Kakuzu got to do just that. He had his 4 masks keep Fu busy while he stitched what remained of Haiden back together. Haiden's head was on the ground with 2 legs and half of his arm. Kakuzu watched in amazement as Haiden's neck was growing downwards. Suddenly the neck expanded and started forming the shoulder as it connected to the chunk of the surviving half of his arm, while the other arm was being rebuilt from nothing. Since the pieces were stitched, they just fell into their place, so to speak. Fu wasn't happy that her victim survived her attack. Fu roared and all of the masks were blasted back. Kakuzu turned his attention towards Fu, who was running towards him. Fu raised one of her paws and slammed it on the ground, making a huge shock wave that pushed everything away. Kakuzu flew back while Haiden just tumbled through the ground as he was still healing. Futonatsugai, pressurized wind bomb. The light blue mask sent a compressed air ball towards Fu. The ball exploded on impact, and Fu was sent tumbling through the ground and crashed into a tree. They were already out of the village since their fight began. Fu shook her head as she got up to see the grinning face of Haiden. I can't die, bitch! Haiden shouted at her while laughing maniacally. Haiden raised his scythe and brought it down as hard as he could. Clang, the scythe collided with her defensive bones. Haiden's scythe didn't even scratch her defenses. Fu swinged one of her tails and Heiden's was thrown backwards. Fu turned her attention towards Kakuzu, who was standing still with his masks around him. 2 masks on each side with him in the middle. Katon Karyudan, Fire Dragon, Sueton Suryudan, Water Dragon, Doton Doryudan, Earth Dragon, Futon Furyudan, Wind Dragon. Raiton Raryudan, Lightning Dragon. Each mask charged and unleashed its own version of the elemental dragon. The 5 elemental dragons rose into the sky, coiling themselves together. The Wind Dragon powered the Fire Dragon. The Water Dragon powered up the Lightning Dragon. The dragons roared and blurred towards Fu, who couldn't dodge in time. Byoan made big explosion was felt, and Kakuzu smirked, knowing that not even Fu could escape that combination without suffering any damage. He had to thank Senju Naruto for showing him the Lightning Dragon all those years ago. Maybe he could thank him in person if he ever got the task to capturing the 9 tails. The smoke started clearing and Fu was struggling to get up. All of the bones were cracked and some even gone. Even with her chakra-reinforced blue shell, anyone could burn marks from the explosion. Haiden now, Kakuzu shouted as Haiden appeared next to Fu and brought his side down right on her burned parts. Haiden chose the burned chunks because it was where Fu was more fragile. Fu was able to dodge slightly and avoid being completely pierced by his scythe, but Haiden managed to cut her deep enough to draw blood. Haiden laughed as he jumped back. He brought his scythe to his mouth and licked the small amount of blood there was on the tips of his weapon. Slowly but surely, Haiden's skin started turning pitch black with white drawing of his bones. Haiden cut open his wrist and let blood flow out into the ground. Haiden drew a triangle inside a circle and stepped into the middle of both. Haiden took out a spear and shouted, "For you, Jashin-sama!" and pierced right through his chest, puncturing his right lung and nearly missing his heart. Fu roared in pain as he dropped to the ground and writhed in pain. She roared as she tried to stand back up, but to no avail. Fu started losing her cloak as the bones disintegrated into dust, and her tails started receding. "Oh Lord, the pain, it feels good," Haiden said as he took pleasure in the pain coursing through his body. In the meantime, Fu's version 2 cloak completely dissipated, leaving her cloak transparent. Anyone could see the horrible state she was in. A large hole in her shoulder that was sizzling as Komiai's chakra focused solely on it. Her skin was blood red, meaning that it had been completely burned off. Suddenly the whole cloak vanished and Fu was left on the ground panting and barely conscious. "I'm an idiot, why did I lose myself?" Fu thought to herself. She gave in to her anger and could have gone on a rampage, destroying everything, even her village. "What a mess," Kakuzu said, looking at the battlefield. Everything in a 100-meter radius was gone and replaced with nothing but death. There was no plant life, no nothing. There was nothing but destruction. "Why you?" Fu started saying, making Kakuzu turn to her. "Why you have made a grave mistake," Fu said, chuckling weakly, slowly opening her eyes. "You are all gonna die," Fu said, making Kakuzu raise an eyebrow. "And what mistake would that be?" Kakuzu asked, amused, and decided to hear her explanation. "You should have knocked me out when you had the chance." Fu shouted, and faster than anyone could reacted, she took out a 3-pronged kunai from her pouch and stabbed it on the ground in front of her. Fu almost buried the kunai to the hilt from the speed and power she put behind it. Kakuzu's eyes widened when he recognized the kunai. He was quickly brought out of his thoughts when the clearing was illuminated with a yellow flash. Once Kakuzu and Haiden regained their vision, Kakuzu's blood ran cold. Senju Naruto was standing in front of them, and by the look of his face, he was pissed. His blood-red eyes were glowing and the ground was shaking from his chakra pressure. Moments earlier with Naruto Konoha's academy. "Alright, quiet down," Irika said to his class, who still continued to make noise. "I said settle down." Irika yelled and everyone quickly shut up and sat down. From the hall, Naruto chuckled inwards. It looked like Irika still used his trademark jutsu. Now, Irika started seeing that the class had calmed down. "Today is a very special day. Today we have 3 guests that will be available for question on their shinobi duties and how difficult mission are," Irika said, and class started cheering that they wouldn't be listening to Irika for once. "If you behave, they might show you a few tricks," Irika said, and was amused by their reaction. Everyone was giddy to meet the shinobi that would be teaching them instead of learning history or math from Irika. "Now without further ado, I introduce you Sarutobi Konohamaru," Irika said, and Konohamaru poofed into existence in the middle of class, shocking all of the academy students, saying that he came from nowhere. Konohamaru is a genin that graduated just last year and is already signing up for the next Chunin exams, Irika said, and the class cheered. Believe it! Konohamaru shouted, pumping his fist into the air. He's kinda cute. Hanabi thought to herself, suppressing a blush. That bastard stole my line. Naruto thought towards Konohamaru, considering putting him in a Tsukuyami as punishment. Next we have Senju Naruto. Iruka said, and the whole class gasped as Naruto appeared in a yellow flash near Konohamaru. The girls all had stars in her eyes seeing the gorgeous face of Naruto while boys glared at him. After all, Naruto was good-looking, strong and famous. As you all know, Naruto-kun here is a Chunin, the head of the Senju clan and grandson of our Hokage. Iruka explained and Naruto nodded. And finally we have our final guest. Hatake Kakashi. Iruka said and waited, and waited. 5 minutes had passed and there was no smoke and no door opening. I'll right back. Naruto said, sighing, and vanished in a yellow flash. Iruka sighed, knowing that Kakashi still had his nasty habits. Not 1 minute later, Naruto arrived with Kakashi in tow, completely wrapped with rope. Naruto, was this necessary? Kakashi asked as Naruto dropped him to the ground with a thumb sound. Yes, it was. Naruto said, nodding his head. As I was saying, Hatake Kakashi, one of our best jounins. He is known as the copy ninja Kakashi, the man who knows over 1,000 jutsu. Iruka explained, and the class got giddy at such shinobi. Too bad neither of them knew that Naruto could defeat Kakashi with a flick of a finger. Now, are there any questions? Iruka asked, and the class exploded, much to Naruto's amusement. Alright, settle down. Emi-chan, you go. Iruka said, and girl nodded in appreciation. Senju-sama. Emi started but got interrupted. Just Naruto will do. Naruto said, and the girl shyly nodded. Naruto-san, I heard you are quite strong, so why are still a Chunin? Emi asked, and Iruka was admired as it was a pretty decent question. It's simple, really. There are 2 ways to be promoted to Jounin. You can either get a field promotion based on the reports of your performance, or you can take the Jounin exams. The reason I'm still a Chunin is because a few weeks ago I returned from a 3-year training trip. Naruto explained, and Emi nodded happily. Next, Kimi-chan. Iruka said, and the boys groaned as Iruka was only picking girls. Kakashi-san, how did you get that scar on your eye? Kimi asked, and Naruto flinched as he knew the story behind that. Kakashi hummed as he closed his pervert book and gathered his thoughts. It was the first mission after my promotion to Jounin. I got slashed by a sword and ended up blind on this eye. Kakashi explained, but Kimi got confused. Blind? But your eye looks fine. Kimi said, and Kakashi shifted uncomfortably. One of my teammates died on that mission. His name was Uchiha Obito. He sacrificed his life to save mine and gave me his eye as a gift. Kakashi said, sighing and activating his Sharingan for the whole class to see. He gave me his Sharingan so he could see the world through my eyes. Kakashi stated. He was a hero. Kimi said, and Kakashi happily nodded. That is the way of the shinobi. Make no mistake. Kakashi started in a serious tone. Death is a constant. The only way to survive and be strong is to form bonds. Train and fight for those you hold dear, and you will achieve power beyond your wildest dreams. Kakashi said, and Naruto nodded while Konohamaru was drawing blanks. Alright. Iruka said, breaking everyone from the sour mood. Next, Jiraiya-kun. Iruka said. Finally. Jiraiya shouted, much to Iruka's amusement. Hey brat, how old are you? Jiraiya blurted out towards Konohamaru. Who are you calling a brat? Konohamaru asked, fuming. You, Jiraiya replied. You look weak. I bet I could take you on. Jiraiya replied, standing from his chair. Bring it on. Konohamaru said as he placed his hands on AT formation ready to form shadow clones. Enough. Iruka stopped the growing argument and advanced towards another student. Hanabi-chan, you're up. Iruka said, and Hanabi nodded. So she's Hinata-chan's younger sister. They kinda look alike. Naruto thought to himself before Hanabi drew his attention. How is Hinata so strong? Hanabi asked, and the whole class went silent. Some students muttered around asking who this Hinata was. I don't intend to badmouth your father if I can call him that. Naruto started, and Hanabi flinched. The Juken style you are learning never suited her. The Juken style was built to work around a steady stance with quick counter-strikes. However, Hinata-chan is a water-natured user. She's supposed to flow and avoid her enemy like water finding its path. Naruto explained, and Hanabi listened. As such, Hinata-chan would never truly master the original Juken. Your father never noticed this or just didn't want to see it, so he kept pushing her towards something she would never be able to achieve. With each failure, Hayashi grew angrier at her until he was finally sick of it and expelled Hinata from the clan. Naruto said, and the class gasped, turning to Hanabi, who shrunk in her seat. You asked me how she is so strong, Naruto said, gathering his thoughts. She was always strong to begin with. She had very high potential but was being limited by your father's strict rules. Once we began training together, and with a bit of incentive and compliments she found her way and built herself to all she is today. Naruto replied, smiling. He really loves her. Kakashi replied, looking towards his little brother. You should swing by the Senju compound. She would be happy to see you, Naruto said, and Hanabi could only nod. Excuse me? Hisao interrupted and gathered the attention of everyone. Who is this Hinata? Hisao asked. That would be Hyuga Hinata, Hanabi's older sister and my girlfriend. Naruto explained and sighed when he heard the pouts from some girls. I think I know a way to rid them of their fangirl ways, Naruto thought to himself as he flared his chakra. Why did you flare your chakra, Naruto? Kakashi asked, confused, but Naruto waved him off. A few seconds later, everyone felt chakra usage and they could see water swirling in the middle of the room. Hinata had just arrived via water Shunshin. You called Naruto-kun? Hinata asked in a soft voice. She was wearing a white medic garb that ended up just below her knees. The coat was buttoned up and looked like it might burst open from her bust. She had her hair trapped in a long ponytail. Naruto brought his hand to his nose as he didn't expect her to look so hot in a simple medic outfit. You like it, Naruto-kun? Hinata cutely asked, bringing a finger to her chin. THUMB. Naruto dropped to the ground like a sack of potatoes with blood running from his nose. Hinata giggled and crouched to pick her boyfriend up when Naruto awakened and grabbed her. He leaned up and whispered, Save that outfit for later. And Hinata blushed but quickly let it go as they were in front of kids. Naruto cleared his throat and the blood on his nose and turned to face the class once again. Now I would like to introduce you to Hyuga Hinata, my girlfriend, Naruto said, and the boys had stars in their eyes. Now girls, look carefully at her, Naruto said, and Hinata raised an eyebrow at what he was doing. She didn't exactly like being on the spotlight. Isn't she gorgeous? Naruto rhetorically asked, and the class could only nod. Even Kakashi, Iruka, and Konohamaru nodded. Now, what if I told you that she can give the Hokage a run for her money? Naruto said, and the class had their eyes widened. This girl of 17 was stronger than the Hokage? She's the living proof that you can dedicate your life to being a shinobi while still being beautiful, Naruto said, pecking the cheek on his girlfriend. Naruto looked backwards and Iruka sent him a thankful nod, seeing as Naruto tried to get rid of the fangirls. He's right, Nei-chan is so pretty, Hanabi thought as she decided she would definitely get to know her better. She was everything Hanabi wanted to be, strong and beautiful. Thank you for participating, Hinata-chan, Naruto said, and Hinata was in a pickle. Naruto had basically flaunted her to these kids like a piece of meat, but she knew he intended to bring these girls out of their ways so she would forgive him. See you at home, Naruto-kun, Hinata said and disappeared in the water Shunshin. Now, next question, Iruka said, and the class raised their arms once against. Kyo-chan, Iruka said, and the girl squealed loudly. Dear Kami, Kakashi thought when he started hearing a small ringing in his ears. That girl would put Sakura to shame, Iruka thought sadly. Sakura was the first one to go. Can I touch your fan? Kyo asked, but Naruto frowned. This fan is very special. Konohamaru suddenly walked up to Kakashi. Looks like Naruto is the center of the attention, Konohamaru whispered while Kakashi only nodded, not that he minded much. He didn't care much for glory, but neither did Naruto. And it belonged to my grandfather Uchiha Madara. Naruto finished his explanation as to why Meo couldn't touch the fan without dying, but he took it out, showed it to everybody. Next, Isamu-kun, Iruka said, and the kid nodded and faced Naruto once again, who sighed. Do you really have the Kyuubi trapped inside of you? Isamu asked, and silence followed his question. I have, but why do you ask? Naruto asked, curious. How can he fit in there? Don't you get a tummy ache? Isamu asked, curious, and Naruto laughed. They are naive but funny, Naruto thought before a wild thought occurred in his mind. He wouldn't, Kurama thought as he noticed the face his host had. He is, Kurama thought as he noticed Naruto bit his finger and slam his hand on the ground. Kuchios no Jutsu, Kyuubi no Yoko, summoning technique, nine-tailed demon fox, Naruto said, slamming his hand on the ground. Chibified version, Naruto added in afterthought as the smoke disappeared to reveal a small nine-tailed fox. Kurama was on the outside world and nothing bigger than a bunny. I'm not amused, Kurama stated as Naruto picked him up and placed him on top of his head. Class, meet the Kyuubi, Naruto said, and the girls squealed at how adorable the little fox looked. Kakashi was just amused as to how Naruto treated a fox that could wipe out their village in less than a minute. You see, he doesn't take up much space, Naruto said, amused, and Kurama started growling much. In the end, the fox was just yipping away. Next, Ichigo-kun, Iruka said, and an orange-haired boy nodded. What's the name of your most powerful jutsu? Ichigo asked towards the three shinobi in front of them. Rasengan, Konohamaru said, making a blue ball of chakra appear in his hand. That would be my Raikiri, Kakashi replied as his hand sparkled with chakra. My strongest purely offensive jutsu would be Right-un Raijin no Ken, Fist of the Thunder God, Naruto stated. Susanoo was considered more of a shield than weapon, not that it didn't pack quite a punch. And the Rinnegan he wanted to keep a secret for as long as he could. Can you show us? Ichigo asked, and Kakashi paled. Better not unless you want to turn the village into a crater, Kakashi quickly replied as to not give ideas to Naruto, who grinned. Alright, next question, Yuki-chan, Iruka said, and the girl nodded, standing up. What can you tell us of Uchiha Madara? Yuki asked, and everyone raised an eyebrow. I can tell you that he was bastard for controlling me, and if I see him again I'm gonna eat him, the Chibi Kyuubi growled. Easy there, Kyuubi-kun, Naruto said, making Kurama glare at him. I don't know much about the man since I never met him, Naruto started. I suppose I can tell them a few things that Toussaint told me, Naruto thought. For starters, he was a proud man. He was never ashamed of flaunting either his clan name or the superiority of the Sharingan. You can say that he was arrogant, but he could easily back up his words with his power, Naruto said before another thought occurred to him. Though I don't quite understand why he was called Konoha's greatest traitor. The only thing I know he did was leaving the village. That hardly calls for such a title, Naruto said in afterthought, and everyone got thinking. Naruto had a point. Why Madara this great traitor when he simply left the village? Well, he did try to kill the Shodame, Kakashi stated, and Naruto nodded. Although Orochimaru left the village and tried to kill the Sandame. Oh please, Naruto said, waving his hand. Those two hated each other, but he would have never come through with it. I heard he was big softy on the inside, Naruto said, and Kakashi had his eyes widened. Uchiha fucking Madara a softy? Kakashi wondered in thought. If Madara was a softy, then what would Naruto call a hard ass? His name alone would bring fear to every nation, Kakashi thought, shaking his head. Have you ever wondered why those two never killed each other? Naruto rhetorically asked. They fought countless times as they grew up and old, and they never killed each other. That's because, even though they were enemies, they were like brothers. Neither of them would be able to actually land the finishing blow, Naruto explained, and Kakashi stared at him. Look at this way, Naruto started. Hashirama was one of the greatest medics to live. Don't you think he would be able to make sure he was dead during his final battle? He saw Madara on the ground and couldn't finish him off. Naruto explained. What more can I tell you? Naruto asked out loud before continuing. He loved his family very much, especially his little brother Uchiha Izuna, Naruto said, in the class, and even Iruka listened. It wasn't every day you could hear so much about such old figure. Minato's point of view flashback. Toussaint. A 5-year blonde-haired kid ran through the forest yelling to his father. Minato-kun, Madara said as Minato stopped near his father. Come look quick, Minato said, and dragged an amused Madara after him. Once they stopped running, they were at the entrance of a forest. Look, Minato said, and took a deep breath and suddenly started running towards the tree. As Minato arrived near the tree, he placed his right foot on it, sticking himself to the bark. He then continued running all the way up the tree, reaching the top. I finally did it, Minato shouted from the top of the tree. I can see that, Madara said, amused at cheerful attitude of his son. And you only took a few days. If you keep this going, you will be strong as your old man in no time, Madara said as Minato jumped down and landed in front of him. Really? Minato asked hopefully. Of course, Madara said, ruffling Minato's wild hair. You are my son after all, Madara said, and both left towards their home where Hanako was preparing dinner. Toussaint? Minato asked his father while they were walking home. Madara turned to Minato and motioned him to go on. Do you know why Ka-san is sick? Minato asked slowly. There's nothing for you to worry about, Minato-kun, Madara said, laughing. Let's just say your mother is cooking your little brother. Madara said, amused when Minato jumped into the air at the prospect of a little brother. Minato didn't have many friends as they lived quite a distance away from the nearby town. Really? Minato asked hopefully, and Madara nodded. What's his name? Minato asked, curious about his little brother-to-be. Since Hanako-chan named you, I'll be the one naming your brother. He's going to be called Azuna, in memory of my own little brother, Madara said sadly. That bastard of my brother took out his own eyes and gave them to me. Madara thought angrily at the memory of losing his brother. Madara told him that he could still fight even when he was blinded by an enemy. Madara sighed and removed the dark thoughts of his mind, and continued making their way home. Ka-san, Minato called out. Hanako turned to see both Madara and Minato arriving. She was surprised when Minato rushed her and looked towards the food pan on the oven. When is Azuna-kun finished cooking? Minato asked, and Hanako faltered for a moment before turning to an amused Madara. End flashback. And there isn't much I can tell you about him, Naruto said, although he didn't them about this particular episode as it would reveal Minato's identity. Alright, next Iruka didn't manage to finish as Naruto's head snapped upwards as if he felt something. Something's wrong. Foot just activated her marker. Kakashi, let Bachan know where I'm going, Naruto said, and vanished in a yellow flash. Kakashi hummed and thought. He never did say where he was going, did he? Kakashi asked. Back with Full Bleach OST 9, enemy unseen. The ground was shaking as both Akatsuki members were frozen, staring at the escalating chakra of Naruto. He was pissed that the Akatsuki would dare to try and take another bijou, even more that this bijou was sealed inside a friend. Naruto was sick of this Tobi fellow, and then Kakuzu and this silver guy tried to take Fu. This would be their last mistake. Naruto had just declared open season on Akatsuki, and he would personally reduce them all to ashes. Naruto didn't even spare the Akatsuki members a glance as he turned his back to them and crouched near Fu. Naruto's eyes flashed silver. Naraka path, Naruto muttered, placing 2 fingers on Fu's forehead. Naruto's fingers glowed green and Fu's skin started regenerating quickly. Her shoulder's wound closed almost immediately. Those eyes, Chome thought, in fear, to herself deep behind her cage. This human had her father's eyes. She never thought she would ever see those eyes again, and to be fair, it scared her to no end. Those eyes had no limit, they could do anything the wielder so wished. They were called eyes of the gods for a reason, they held no limit. What? Fu asked as she felt revitalized in under a few seconds. How did you do this? Fu asked curiously as she got up and turned to both Akatsuki members who had their eyes widened. I'll tell you later, Naruto said, and turned around, coming face to face with Haiden and Kakuzu. Now I have a couple of worms to deal with, Naruto said darkly as a small smile made its way up his face. Kurama could feel Naruto's emotions, his thrill for battle. Ah ha 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 ha, Haiden laughed as he regained his wits and pointed his scythe towards Naruto. Who's this pathetic mortal? Do you really think you can take us both on? Haiden rhetorically asked. Shut up, you fool, Kakuzu yelled toward his partner. He is Senju Naruto, the Konoha no Raijin, Konoha's thunder god, the shinobi no kami, god of the shinobi, an S-rank shinobi with a flea on sight order, but above all, Kakuzu said, narrowing his eyes at his new opponent. Uchiha Madara's heir and Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, Kakuzu said as a bead of sweat rolled down his face. Great, Haiden replied. We get to take 2 Jinchurikis instead of 1. We can kill 2 rabbits with 1 stone. Haiden laughed. He still doesn't grasp the severity of the predicament we are in, Kakuzu thought to himself. He still remembers the battle he had with Naruto 3 years ago. Even though Kakuzu was weaker by using the body doubles, he still lost, and 3 years of training could do so much. And now Naruto was standing in front of him, patiently waiting, stoically looking at him. It scared him to no end. Haiden, Kakuzu said as he gathered his partner's attention. We are leaving, Kakuzu said, and got ready to leave. What? Haiden screamed in outrage. You heard what Leader Sama said. He's beyond the strength of any of us, Kakuzu said towards his annoying partner. That fool seemed to have a death wish. They are running away just because Naruto shows up? Fu thought to herself, wondering just how powerful Naruto was to scare them off. You won't be getting anywhere, Naruto said as a very large purple barrier rose from all sides of the battlefield. You didn't think I was just sitting here still, did you? Naruto rhetorically asked, smirking at the panicking face of Kakuzu. He trapped himself with both of them. Fu thought, shocked with Naruto's boldness. Was he so arrogant that he thought he could take them both on? Or was he confident in his power? Deep inside Fu, Chome was completely focused on the battle. If this person could really wield the Rinnegan, then the Akatsuki were no match for him. Enough, Haiden shouted as he rushed Naruto head-on. Let's kill the bastard, Haiden said as he jumped high in the air and swinged down his scythe. Haiden! Stop, Kakuzu yelled, but to no avail as his partner charged Naruto. Haiden's scythe came down in a diagonal arc. Naruto ducked and let the scythe pass safely above his head. The scythe buried itself on the ground. Naruto swatted Haiden's hand away from the scythe and brought his knee to his stomach. Haiden's eyes popped out, and he buckled in pain. Naruto caught Haiden's neck and raised him into the air with a single hand. Do you want to dance? Naruto asked with his Sharingan glowing. Haiden was writhing in pain. He tried to make Naruto release his hand around his neck, but he couldn't. Naruto's grip was too firm. Haiden just stayed there, slowly choking to death, except he couldn't die. You are either very brave or very foolish, Naruto said, laughing at Haiden's predicament. Naruto turned his attention to Kakuzu, but the man was frozen in place and could only look as Naruto slowly choked his partner. Interesting, Naruto thought as he looked towards Haiden. The man was not dying. Naruto shifted his attention towards the necklace Haiden carried. It was a hollow circle with a triangle inside. I've seen that before, Naruto thought to himself. Careful, Naruto, Fu yelled from outside the barrier. Chome says that one is immortal. Fu yelled and Naruto raised an eyebrow, looking intently at Haiden. Naruto released Haiden and kicked him in the chest, sending him flying into Kakuzu. Arg! Haiden screamed in frustration as he crashed into Kakuzu. I'm going to enjoy sacrificing you to Jashin-sama, Haiden yelled and turned to his teammate. Get up, you pussy, Haiden said and brought Kakuzu from his thoughts. Who are you calling that? Kakuzu asked in a dangerous voice. You, Haiden said, pointing at him. You froze against some teenager, Haiden explained. I froze? Kakuzu thought to himself as made sure to never repeat the same mistake. It won't happen again. We need to work together against him, otherwise we will both die, Kakuzu said, and Haiden laughed again, saying he couldn't die. I remember now, Naruto thought as he was hit with a realization when Haiden said something about Jashin. Naruto read about people that prayed to this god Jashin, and, as long they gave him human tributes, this god would grant the humans immortality and advanced regeneration. Turn him into ash and let's see him regenerate from that, Kurama suggested from inside Naruto's mind, which he agreed. Either that or I could remove his soul, Naruto replied, which the fox also agreed. Naruto would use which one came first when the opportunity presented itself. Naruto bent slightly forward before he disappeared in a burst of speed. Fast, Kakuzu thought as he brought both arms to his face in an X formation. Naruto's fist collided with Kakuzu's arms, but he was flinged back nonetheless. Naruto ducked under a horizontal swing from Haiden and channeled chakra into his wrist seal. Naruto's Chikuto poofed into existence. Naruto quickly grabbed the hilt and started channeling lightning chakra through it. Naruto did an upward slice and severed Haiden's scythe in half. The three-bladed scythe fell to the ground with Haiden only holding the now worthless metal staff. Naruto smirked as he used his Kami and allowed a compressed wind ball to phase right through him and hit Haiden head-on. Haiden was blasted back while Naruto got away unscathed. Half a silver rib cage appeared around Naruto and a silver arm suddenly sprouted from that. Naruto's Susanoo quickly grabbed the light blue mask that sent the wind ball and crushed it into nothingness. The light blue mask fell to the ground in pieces while the black threads dissolved into nothing. Damn it, he already got one of my hearts, Kakuzu thought to himself as his masks regrouped with him. Doton Tape Chikyu, Devouring Earth, Naruto shouted, slamming his both hands on the ground. Devouring Earth, one of Hashirama's most powerful jutsu that he taught Naruto. The whole ground started shaking as the earth started breaking and twisting itself. The ground beneath Kakuzu and his masks exploded as several huge jaws of earth rose from the ground to devour him. Kakuzu jumped to sides and up as both he and his masks did their best to avoid being swallowed. Naruto did the jutsu and turned to Haiden. That earth jutsu should keep Kakuzu busy long enough while he dealt with Haiden. Naruto turned towards Haiden and rushed him head-on. Haiden pulled his retractable metal spear and parried as best as he could Naruto's blows. Haiden took use of his immortality and allowed Naruto to strike him. Naruto performed a downward slash, giving Haiden a large gash on his chest. Haiden took advantage of Naruto's blade being almost on the ground and brought his spear high into the air. He brought it down as fast as he could, only to phase right through Naruto and bury itself on the ground. Naruto kicked Haiden on the shoulder, and he was sent tumbling through the ground. Haiden got up and looked towards Naruto, who had both hands on the ground. A golden chain sprouted from the ground near Haiden's foot. Haiden quickly sidestepped it and back-flipped when another one came from the opposite direction. While Haiden was busy dogging chains, one of Naruto's clones that was powering the barrier saw a mask incoming. Since Naruto's clone had the Rinnegan active, they shared their field of vision, giving Naruto 360 degrees of vision around the battlefield. Naruto channeled chakra the fan on his back. Gunby barrier technique, Naruto thought, and a silvery, Susanoo-like shield appeared around Naruto, blocking a lightning bolt. Naruto rose, picking up his fan, and, with a quick turn, slammed his fan into the yellow mask and sent her towards Kakuzu. Time to end this, Naruto thought as he channeled more chakra into the earth. The ground shook and 10 chains sprouted all at once. Haiden didn't manage to avoid them all and ended snared to the ground on his knees. Kakuzu, Naruto shouted towards his enemy as he stopped his earth jutsu and allowed Kakuzu to look at him. Look closely to your partner, Naruto said, and only raised his index finger into the air. Katan, fire style, Naruto said as a small orange light sparkled at the tip of Naruto's finger. Orange chakra could be heard swirling around his finger, and started forming some kind of small sphere. Go and Rasengan, Great Flame Rasengan, Naruto said, and suddenly the ball of chakra expanded, turning almost black with the edges gaining an orange and red hue, forming a ring of flames. It was like Naruto had a mini sun at the tip of his finger. I won't get there in time, Kakuzu thought as Naruto slammed his fire Rasengan into Haiden, who was blasted back and rose into the sky in a maelstrom of fire. Haiden screamed as he was being teared apart, limb by limb, until finally being reduced to nothing more than ashes. Naruto shielded his face from the fire tornado in the air. Suddenly the maelstrom of fire ended, and there was nothing left. Kakuzu watched in fear as a few ashes floated away in the wind. There was nothing left of Haiden but ashes. He killed Haiden with a single jutsu, Kakuzu thought in fear. What monster had they unleashed? If you poke the dragon, Naruto started breaking Kakuzu from his thoughts. Be sure you can run away, Naruto said, smirking as he made his way towards Kakuzu, who braced himself. Enten Goku Mekyaku, Inferno-style Great Fire Annihilation, Naruto said, and unleashed a wave of pitch-black flames towards Kakuzu. Kakuzu knew very well that he couldn't block this jutsu, and his only choice was to dodge. His mask flew high into the air as Kakuzu sunk into the ground. Kakuzu popped out from the ground as he tried to give Naruto an uppercut. Naruto back-flipped and tried a horizontal swing towards Kakuzu's raising fist. Naruto was successful and cleaved 4 of his fingers. Kakuzu groaned in pain and jumped back, regrouping with his 3 remaining masks. Kakuzu and his masks gathered their chakra and unleashed the elemental dragons. They were Kakuzu's most powerful attack that, when combined, it almost surpassed S-rank level. Naruto smiled and simply raised his hand facing the incoming dragons. Deva Path, Naruto said as he shifted into his Rinnegan. Shinra Tensei, Naruto said, and released a shock wave that collided with the dragons and easily dispelled the technique. Everything was blown backwards, the elemental dragons, the masks, and even Kakuzu. Kakuzu spat blood to the ground and shakily got up, only to take a step back when he looked into Naruto's eyes. The Rinnegan, it cannot be, he has the same eyes as Leader Sama, Kakuzu thought, as with heart going a mile a minute, until a realization hit him. The girl was right, we are all dead men walking, Kakuzu thought to himself, chuckling and accepting his fate. Several chains shot from the ground, snaring everyone to the ground. The masks were squirming and trying to get free, but to no avail. To think you had the Rinnegan, Kakuzu chuckled as he tried to raise his head and meet Naruto in the eye. Naruto wasn't tired or even injured. All of this was a mistake, he truly is beyond any of us, Kakuzu thought as he watched Naruto extend his right hand forward, with the palm facing upwards. Jurioten, gravity release, Naruto said as purple chakra started swirling in his hand. Moments later, a small pitch-black sphere formed on his palm. Around the sphere, series of white rings started appearing, orbiting the black sphere. The rings started aligning themselves into a one disc-like shape around the orb. It seemed that Naruto had a black planet in his hand with planetary rings around it, either that or a black hole. Raisin Ringu, spiraling fear wheel. 1, Naruto said and didn't even need to throw the sphere. The new Rasengan simply levitated from his hand and flew with high speeds towards the pinned down Kakuzu and his masks. Kakuzu watched in wonder the last thing he would see. As the orb arrived near the enemy, it suddenly expanded in a maelstrom of blackness. The Rasengan expanded and started absorbing and pulling everything towards the center. It really was like a black hole, swallowing everything in his reach. The black hole kept swirling and dragging the masks that tried to fly away. Kakuzu was long gone inside the sphere of doom. The wind was swirling towards the black hole in the middle of the clearing. Rocks and trees were ripped out from the ground due to the attractive force, and lost within it. Nothing within 10 meters range from the black hole could ever hope to escape it. Amazing, Fu thought watching the jutsu Naruto had unleashed. She had never seen such jutsu on her life that she wondered if that was ninjutsu to begin with. Once the 3 masks had been pulled, the black dome started expanding, eating up part of the terrain, and almost tripling in size. Suddenly, like a flash before anyone's eyes, the black dome imploded and disappeared, leaving nothing behind but a crater that it had created. 2 down, Naruto said as he dispelled his clones and the barrier around the field was dropped. Naruto approached Fu, who had her jaw on the ground at Naruto's display of power. I should have called you sooner, Fu muttered. Yes, Naruto said, nodding his head. You should have. I spent the last 3 years preparing myself for them, Naruto said and watched as Fu slowly walked up to Shibuki's body and fall to her knees crying. I guess he was important to you, Naruto softly said, placing a hand on her shoulder. He was the only one that liked me. Fu sobbed at the loss of her only friend in this village. What I'm about to do, Naruto said, making her face him to hear the seriousness of his voice. Tell no one about it, understand? Naruto asked, and Fu quickly nodded, not knowing what he was going to do. Ram snake. Naruto made 2 hand seals before he closed his eyes and concentrated. It can't be, Chome thought in disbelief, from inside her host as she watched the events unfold. Geto, outer path, Rinna Tensei no Jutsu, Samsara of heavenly life technique, Naruto said as he started emanating green light. Naruto placed his hand on Shibuki's chest and his body was covered in a green light from head to toe. A few seconds later, the green aura died down and Shibuki started to stir. Fu had her eyes widen when she noticed Shibuki opening his eyes. He was dead, I'm sure of it, Fu thought to herself, helping Shibuki up and looking towards Naruto, who had opened his eyes to show his Rinnegan. Fu-chan, do not underestimate the power of those eyes, Chome warned from inside her host. With the Rinnegan, Naruto can do anything he wishes. You are as close to a god as you will ever be, Chome said, and Fu slowly nodded. WWH, what happened? Shibuki asked as he raised to his feet. The last thing I remember was that silver-haired guy becoming all black and white, Shibuki explained and looked towards Fu, who was wiping away a few tears. You were unconscious from the fight. I called Naruto to help, and once he defeated them he healed you, Fu explained discreetly, looking towards Naruto, who nodded. Well then, you have my deepest thanks, Naruto-san. You not only saved my village but also Fu-chan, Shibuki said, giving a small bow as a thank you. Take Fu and go rest. There is something I have to do first. I'll catch up with you later, Naruto said, and both Shibuki and Fu nodded and left towards the village. Once they were gone, Naruto walked to the middle of the battlefield and crouched near the fingers of Kakuzu that he had sliced earlier. In the middle of the fight, Kakuzu's ring started emanating chakra. It was strange for a ring to give off chakra. Naruto picked up the finger and slowly removed his ring. Naruto turned to ring and noticed the kanji 4 north in it. Not being someone to back down, Naruto placed the ring on his hand and his consciousness was immediately shifted to someplace else. Akatsuki hideout. All of the 8 members were gathered together as they waited for Kakuzu and Haiden to arrive with Fu, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabai. Kakuzu had sent a message saying that he found the Jinchuriki, and that he would proceed with her capture. What's the status of your searches? Pain asked as they patiently waited for Kakuzu and Haiden to arrive at their location. Yeah, we have located the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi, Utakata, I believe he's called, Deidara said, and Pain nodded. What about the Sanbai? Pain asked. According to my spies, Sasori started, the Sanbai is hiding in the lakes around the islands of the Mist Village. If my information is right, after the Kyubi Jinchuriki defeated Yagura, the Sanbai was released but he didn't seal it, Sasori explained, and Pain narrowed his eyes. You mean to tell me there is a Bija out there without a host? Pain asked and Sasori nodded. It could prove more difficult to subdue as Bijus without host have full access to their abilities. Interesting, Kisame commented. Who's the new Mizukage? Kisame asked curious. Mei Terumi was named the 5th Mizukage shortly after Yagura's defeat. Sasori replied and Kisame frowned. They won't seal the sandby then. The Kyuubi brat left the sandby without a host for a reason and most likely Mei agreed to it. The turtle won't be sealed, Kisame explained. It matters not. I'll capture it myself if need be, Pain said and turned towards Itachi. What about the Gobi and Yambi? Pain asked and Itachi simply opened his eyes to reveal his blood-red Sharingan. Both of Iwa's Jinchurikis have Sannin travel rights. They are loyal to their villages but don't have a fixed location. We have the Yambi's location but the Gobi still eludes us, Itachi stoically replied. Zetsu, work on tracking down the Gobi, Pain ordered. Yes, Leader Sama, Zetsu replied. In the meantime, Itachi and Kisame will proceed with the Yambi's capture. Deidara and Sasori will proceed with Utakata's capture, Pain ordered and both parties nodded. Kisame shouted. What's taking them so long? Kisame asked as he was bored out of his mind. Pain's eye twitched as he was also tired of waiting for them to deliver. Zetsu, Pain called out. Yes, Leader Sama, the white Zetsu replied. Go find out why they are taking so long, will you? Pain said in a bored tone. Yes, Lead Dash, they will not be coming. Everyone flinched at the new voice. All Akatsuki members shifted their attention from Zetsu and towards the newcomer who was standing in the place of Kakuzu. The new holographic image had long blonde, waist-length, spiky hair with fangs that framed his face and partially covered his right eye. He also had 3 distinctive whiskers marks on each cheek. On his back he had a wide fan with 3 blood-red tomos on each side. It had a long handle with bandages wrapped around the base. The main part of the weapon was light brown with the edges being black. Let's talk, Naruto said, smirking with his Sharingan glowing and looking at the shocked faces of every Akatsuki member.